Welcome back to another reaction stream ahead of Blank Gameweek 28, and we still have two more games for Double Gameweek 27, and there'll probably be a few UCL fantasy questions popped in here because we do have some Champions League games tonight. So if you do have any, then be sure to let me know. We're going to go through all your questions and comments and give you a brief analysis of the upcoming game week and also all our initial thoughts based on the Gameweek 27 results and performances so far. So thank you very much for tuning in, those of you that are watching afterwards and also those that are tuning in right now. Let's get straight into your questions. As always, as you can see, I was one of those that captained Mitoma. I then go for Ivan Toney, and so far so good, but it could definitely swing the other way after the second set of fixtures in Double Gameweek 27. I've got 52 points so far, 1,701 points overall, and I've actually got a small red arrow down to 132k. I think I was around 131,000, so literally a minimal one. And I'm hoping to get a green arrow by the end, but it's not looking too good so far. So let's get straight into this. Welcome, Lager. Wildcard or free hit for me? I have no clue myself. So I think I saw your team a few days ago. I'm not sure if you made those proposed transfers we talked about in the deadline stream, I think it was. So getting in Martinelli and Toney, I think. Yeah, no, you're getting Toney and Mitoma, sorry, for Martinelli and Nketiah, and I think those were the right transfers. But even with those transfers made, I still think a wild card will be best suited for you and for the majority of people who are maybe deciding between a free hit and a wild card. This won't be applicable to everybody, but I firmly believe the wild card would be best for you, and it not only sets you up for Game Weeks 28 and 29, but also for the rest of the season. And you can free hit in Game Week 32 when some big teams potentially like Man City, Brighton, from an FPL perspective anyway, and a few others like Chelsea could blank in 32. The same goes for Man United. So I think that would be the best way to kind of navigate these weeks. Wildcard now and free hit in 32. But it might be different in your case and maybe for a few others watching as well. Welcome to Natu Took. Okay, whatever. Welcome. I apologize for butchering your name. Hayden, how was your day? Thank you very much for asking. It's been good. What about you? Yeah, nice points on your bench. It's not too bad though. To be quite frank, it's actually not too shabby. It could have been much worse. That's the way I see it. I think I actually feared a little bit more in terms of more points on my bench. So all things considered, I'm not too displeased with that. Ultimately, if I had Gabriel with a 14-pointer, maybe I would have reconsidered. It's just a bit frustrating that I picked the wrong Arsenal player in the end, with Saka getting the fewest of all of them, which I didn't expect, to be quite frank. So yeah, Joyce, once again, free hit or wild card. I think the same thing, just like I said to Lager. I'm not sure what your team is in this situation, but I think for the majority of situations and scenarios, I think it makes sense to wild card now and potentially save the free hit for 32, 34 or 37, with Game Week 32 being the most likely to be the best Game Week 2 free hit. That's what I'm looking to anyway. I've still got that in my back pocket. Welcome, Abhishek. Haven't put any thought into Game Week 28 yet. Hoping to get some early insights from the stream. Thank you very much, mate. And you can also check out the best free hit team, which I uploaded yesterday. And there's also a video ready for patrons and channel members like yourself for the wildcard video for Game Week 28. So be sure to check that out as well. And everyone else, you know, all subscribers will be able to see it tomorrow. So that'll be out very soon. Then the team selection on Thursday and then the deadline stream on Friday. That is the plan right now. Welcome, Akash. Good to see you here once again. Welcome, Sebastian, as well. Hi, Dylan. So what do you think about Haaland to Watkins and a Stupinian to Chilwell? Yeah, I'm actually looking at the same transfers or to get Maddison in as originally planned for Solly March. I would rather have a Stupinian than March in Game Week 29. The problem that some people may point towards is the fact that Stupinian might miss the first game of Game Week 29 because of his international duties. I don't think that'll be the case, but it certainly is a possibility. But yeah, that's definitely one set of transfers I'm looking to make. So as a result, I definitely think those are good and it's worthwhile. And I think those would be really good moves for you as well. Let's see. So was hoping Watkins didn't score, as I don't really want to sell Haaland. Yeah, but to be fair with Watkins, I still think it's worth it. 3 fixtures compared to Haaland's 1 over the next 2 game weeks, and you can always bring him back in, whether it's for Harry Kane or for Ollie Watkins himself. And to be honest, looking at the fixtures, I think Ivan Toney is the one I would preferably sell out of the front 3 that I'm looking to build. But I certainly wouldn't discourage you from Watkins. I think it definitely pays off. You can always sell him in 29, although I wouldn't recommend it. I'd buy him now and potentially sell someone like Ivan Toney instead in Game Week 30 for Erling Haaland. Got 2 free transfers, says Dan. Should I do Bruno and Shaw to Henry and Chilwell instead of taking Haaland out? I can see why you're looking to do all these moves. And by the way, it's Bueno, you said, so yeah, I apologise for that. Yeah, I think Bueno out is completely understandable. Luke Shaw's a decent option from Game Week 29 onwards, but yeah, I can understand why you want to sell him now. I can see why you're doing this, but I still think it's worth selling Haaland for a striker like Ollie Watkins, Ivan Toney or Harry Kane for the next 2 or 3 game weeks, and you can always bring him back in. But if you just really want to keep Haaland, to be honest, those transfers you said look completely fine. But I'm looking at Rico Henry and I'm not too sure. I think this is a problem. I think it does make sense. He obviously covers the next 2 game weeks, and I think he's arguably the best Brentford defender. I think it's still me, but not much to separate all of them. Yeah, the transfers are fine. I think Chilwell is a great acquisition, and despite my concerns about his rotation, maybe in the next few weeks, I certainly would recommend those transfers, but I would rather do Haaland to Watkins than get, let's say, short out for Henry. That would be my personal opinion, but still good transfers. Have Gabriel on my bench, yeah, that would have been very frustrating, and to be honest, I do feel for you. He's got a great record against Fulham, which now is becoming apparent. I think he scored against them on his debut in the Premier League, away from home, and he also scored in the reverse fixture this season after making a mistake. Mitrovic scored. He ended up making amends and scoring at the Emirates. So yeah, Gabriel, as I've always said, basically, he is the most threatening from goal scoring perspective in the Arsenal ranks, defender-wise anyway. So I think that looks pretty good, to be fair. And look, you have him for Game Week 28. You could even keep him for 29, and he forms part of a very good bench boost squad, potentially. Estupiñán for Ricardo Pereira and Salah to Almiron. What do you think? And are there better players than Almiron? In Game Week 28, I don't think there are many better midfielders. I think Maddison, Arsenal midfielders like Trossard, Saka, Martinelli and Odegaard would be better. Apart from that, I think Almiron would be the best of a relatively bad bunch in Game Week 28 in the midfield. I'll be honest with you, I don't like Ricardo Pereira as an option. I don't see where the clean sheets are coming from. I know the fixtures look good in 29, but I honestly wouldn't go for Ricardo Pereira, and I'd rather keep Estupiñán or just go for another defender like Chilwell. I think that would be worthwhile. I wouldn't go for Ricardo Pereira personally. If I saw something from Leicester in recent weeks or months, at least in terms of underlying numbers or performances, then fair enough, but I just haven't seen anything from them, and quite frankly, the only player I'd consider seriously is James Maddison from Leicester. Southampton will be buoyed by the, or buoyed, shall I say buoyed, by the performance at Old Trafford. Ruben Sellers has made an impact. Yeah, it could just be a managerial bounce, but you are right, he's gotten some good results, and yeah, I think I saw his press conference today where he said that they deserve more credit for their performance against Man United, and it wasn't just because of the red card, but I do think the red card played a big part. Without that, of course, United most likely win the game, but you just never know, and Southampton have done a good job. They beat Chelsea away too, which is a great performance, a great result as well, despite Chelsea's struggles. So yeah, I agree. I think he deserves more credit, and Southampton can be a tricky team to play against. I'm not looking forward to Arsenal facing them again. Yeah, we discussed this in the deadline stream, and I was very confident. I'm normally cynical with Arsenal, I still am, but in that regard, I was very confident of Odegaard starting. But to be honest, benching him is still feasible. You probably benched him for Solly March, Mitoma, or another double gameweek midfielder, Rashford, Salah. It made sense, I think, for a lot of people why Odegaard was on the bench. I am a bit frustrated, but at the same time, it could have been worse, I think. Toney could blank again. Yeah, I mean, with Ivan Toney, he's not been that great, I think, since the World Cup. A few 9-pointers, of course, which is always welcome, but I think the way he got some of those 9-pointers was very fortuitous, and this is coming from someone who had those points count towards their total score in those 2 respective game weeks I'm on about. Trossard on the bench, I think he'll start in the next game. I mean, there's no reason why he'd be benched. I know Jesus is back, but no, Trossard's going to start. I'm very confident of that. Finally, I have both Odegaard and Gabriel on the bench. Bad luck, but still 57 is good. Yeah, it is a good score so far, and it could easily turn into 90 plus, depending on how the second set of games go on the Wednesday. So I'd still be fairly confident in your situation. Just a -4, and I'll have 11 players, saving the wildcard free and bench boost. That looks good. And to be honest, I think a lot of you that maybe saved the wildcard taking hits, so far it's looking good for you. So I think that's pretty decent, to be fair. And as I discussed in my wildcard video, which you'll see tomorrow, some kind of game weeks that I kind of bookmark for each of those chips would be the bench boost in 29, the free hit in game week 32, and then the wildcard, whether now in 28, game week 30 or 33. It just depends on what you're looking to do with the wildcard and how you use that in conjunction with the other chips, but that looks good. Hi there, wildcard or free hit says Drebin. Team is Kepa, Ward, Trippier, Castagna, Saliba, Trent, Estupiñán, Saka, Salah, Mitoma, Rashford, McAllister, Felix, Haaland, Toney. That looks like a good squad. I think there's a few issues in there, but nothing major. I think Castagna is just the a poor option in general. I know he doubles in 29, has a fixture in 28, but I just don't like him, quite frankly. But the rest of your defense looks really good. Goalkeepers are fine. I think you're not missing out on too much, let's say. And you got McAllister, who's doing really well so far. You got Matoma. Not a big fan of Felix, to be quite frank, as well, but still, decent choice, and you could certainly do worse than that. I don't think you need to necessarily, use either chip, but if I were to use one, it would be the wildcard, I think. So I would bolster one of your goalkeepers. You could easily bench boost in 29 there, Drebin. I would then displace Castagna, potentially Saliba as well, although wildcarding now and getting rid of Saliba is not completely necessary, let's be honest. I would probably get rid of Trent anyway, despite his good performances recently. I'd probably keep a Stupinian. Yeah, I think I'd wildcard and get rid of 5, 6 or even 7 players from that squad, including Felix and Erling Haaland, who you can always bring back in around Game Week 30 as well. But yeah, I think wildcard would be the answer there. So yeah, let me try catch up because I've maybe been a bit complacent and now all of a sudden I'm very far behind. So bear with me. There's going to be a bit more of a chill stream, let's say. And yeah, I'll try to get through everything as always. Drebin, you say free hit. That's fair enough. I think a wildcard would be best because you could also, if you've still got the bench boost, by the way, you can bench boost there in 29, maximize that chip, and also be well set up for the rest of the season, and then free hit in Game Week 32. But that's just my personal opinion. You might not have the bench boost, so maybe the free hit is just as viable as the wildcard would be in your situation. Dawn says, I have Raya, Kepa, Trippier, Sinchenko, Henry, Botman, Stupinian, Rashford, Saka, Odegaard, March, Matoma, Kane, Tony, Haaland. What transfers should I make? And I have 2 free transfers and 2.5 million in the bank. So I'm guessing you wildcarded fairly recently because that looks like a really good squad. I think the 2 transfers I'd make would be Erling Haaland out for Ollie Watkins, although you could make a case for Kai Havertz with 3 home games in the next 2 game weeks, and also Iheanacho. But I would go for Ollie Watkins in for Haaland. The other transfer becomes a bit trickier. So what you could do is get rid of a Stupinian for Chilwell and have that extra Game Week 28 player. And he also doubles in 29, and Chilwell's a great option potentially in the long term. But I would have some doubts about him starting every single Premier League game. The alternative would be March out for Maddison. So a bit similar to my situation. I think it's basically between Maddison or Chilwell in for you, and it would be March and Stupinian / a Brentford defender like Rico Henry making way, depending on how you want to tackle Game Week 29 as well. Because I would rather have a Brighton defender long term than Brentford, but at the same time, I also would like to have that extra player if possible in Game Week 28. Thoughts on Salah for the double? Would you transfer him for Game Week 28? I think the double isn't that great. Chelsea have improved recently. Man City are still, Man City. They're a really tough team to play against. And Liverpool struggle on the road. Both fixtures are away from home. And that does put me off a little bit from Salah. Am I thinking of getting him in? Yes. Is he definitely coming in? Not necessarily. I might go for Bruno Fernandes instead. And I'll discuss this on Thursday, I think. That's when I'll release the team selection video. So I would have some doubts about that. But I'd be happy to sell him for now, maybe buy him back in around Game Week 29, if not a bit later on. I think Game Week 31 to 38 is when you'd really want Salah after the Arsenal fixture in Game Week 30, although it's a home fixture. He could certainly do well against the Gunners, but Game Week 29 doesn't look too great, I think, all of a sudden. Welcome, Patrick. 44 points this week with 6 players to go. Yeah, hopefully you can do really well there. At least 70 plus points would be pretty decent. Wow, that is devastating. De Gea, Gabriel, Odegaard, Tarkowski on the bench with 37 points. I mean, suffice to say that would have been one of the best bench boosts you'll probably ever use. So I do feel for you there. But Game Week 29, you should have a decent score from your bench boost if you still have it. But yeah, that definitely is a sucker punch there. I bought in Chilwell and Watkins for Nunez and Trent. I still have Salah. Should I sell or keep? Yep. Those look really good. I think a lot of people will do those transfers this week, but the ownership overall won't be too high. And I still have Salah. Should I sell or keep? If you've got a full 11, I'd definitely keep Salah and have him for Game Week 29. But if you are a man short, I'd be happy to sell Salah, even if it's for a -4 hit potentially. But to be fair, I'm not so sure actually when I look at it. For a -4 hit, if it was my situation, I wouldn't sell Salah if you have 10 men, let's say, for example. So it just depends how many players you have, Lewis, and also how many of the key assets you have in Game Week 28. So let me know, and then I can give you a definitive answer. Should I sell Stupinian for Chilwell? I like Stupinian. He's my favourite Brighton asset besides Matoma. Would I sell him? Yeah, I think I would sell him for Chilwell, and you could ultimately get Stupinian back in 29 for another defender, but I think Chilwell is worth it. It's an extra play in Game Week 28, and I think Chelsea would keep a clean sheet against Everton, and he could also get a big return. So I think it's worth it. I'm actually more open now based on Chelsea's recent form. Chilwell also performing to a really high level too, so I've kind of changed my mind over the last week or two, but is Chilwell absolutely necessary and a must buy? No, he isn't. Thoughts on Haaland to Iheanacho, or have you got any other strikers in mind? Already have Tony Watkins. I would honestly go to Kane. I know the main appeal to Iheanacho or Kai Havertz would be the double in 29, but I think Kane outscores Iheanacho and Havertz, when you look at Game Weeks 28 and 29 combined, and also until the end of the season. And I think Harry Kane's a really good placeholder for Erling Haaland, so I'd rather go for Harry Kane personally. But if you want a cheaper striker, I think I would go for Iheanacho over Kai Havertz, actually. Is double Newcastle essential? No, it definitely isn't. If you look at their recent form, even since the World Cup, it's been very inconsistent, not many clean sheets as well, or FPL points for even the likes of Trippier. So, no, it's not essential. Plus, other than Chilwell and Gabriel, which other defenders are good? Stupinian, but he obviously blanks in 28. I still like a Brentford defender, although they've been very disappointing recently, but they cover 20 and 29 very well. You'll see all of my selections pretty much in the best wildcard team video. I like Newcastle defenders too, but as you just said, or as I've covered as well with you, it's not absolutely essential. So yeah, apart from Chilwell and Gabriel, I think Luke Shaw, Stupinian, and a Brentford defender look really good because, quite frankly, a lot of these players that have a fixture in 28 aren't necessarily great options in 29. I've got Kane and Haaland. I'm a City fan. Yeah, I mean, they're two of the best forwards and players in FPL this season, so you've got those bases covered. You could sell Haaland now, though, and then buy him back in 30, but I'm seeing some people a bit apprehensive about it, and I completely understand that. You don't need to sell Haaland, but if that's your only way of getting a fully level out or getting the likes of Watkins or Kane, I think it is worth it for at least 1 or 2 weeks anyway. So who's better to sell for Chilwell, Henry or Stupinian because Brentford don't blank in 28? Yeah, that's pretty much the big question, and I'll be talking about this in my team selection too, and I'm in two minds about it, and my current thinking is to actually sell Stupinian, but to be quite frank, I also like Stupinian over these Brentford defenders long term. Despite some tough fixtures coming up around Game Week 30 and 31, there's also a chance of Brighton having a double Game Week before Game Week 32, another one on top of 29. So if that is the case, of course, then Stupinian would be the clear favourite to keep. But right now, I think it makes sense to sell Stupinian and keep that Brentford defender. But yeah, they're not really performing too well so far. Chilwell in for Shaw is a good transfer. It is. But I do like Shaw from Game Weeks 29 onwards, despite Casemiro missing the next 4 games, including 3 in the Premier League. 68 points, that looks really good. Got only Matoma and Tony. Hope the rest of them blank. Yeah, I think that's where the other 4 players that maybe some Game Week 26 or 27 wildcarders will have an advantage over, but to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't kind of claw that gap between what you have. Are West Ham assets worth it for double game at 29? I said this a few weeks ago when they beat Nottingham Forest 4-0. Yes, I'd be a bit more open-minded, to consider them, but really they haven't shown enough. One performance isn't enough, and since then they've just continued to disappoint. I honestly wouldn't really go for any of them. If I had to pick, then maybe Soufal, Jarrod Bowen, or maybe you could consider Areola if Fabianski is still a bit of a distance away. But honestly, I just don't like the West Ham assets, and I'd rather go for other teams. The fixtures are decent, but it's still not enough for me. Let's see. So yeah, I'm still a bit far behind. It seems really far behind in this chat, so I apologize for that. Captaincy could cause major rank swings in Game Week 28. No standout candidate. Yeah, I mean, Harry Kane's the most consistent, but Spurs are also inconsistent themselves, and Southampton have been fairly decent recently. So, yeah, I think it isn't really a clear standout. I do agree with you there. If there was a Rashford or Erling Haaland this week with a fixture, I think they would be the standouts, but we don't have them. So, yeah, really it's just Harry Kane, his consistency, but also maybe a lack of a high ceiling in most game weeks. I think Harry Kane or an Arsenal midfielder is where I'm looking at, and at the moment I'm going for Harry Kane. Henry a march to Chilwell, Maddison with a hit, then bring McAllister 29. I think that is worth it, to be fair, but then again, Henry does have a fixture, and that could go either way, the Brentford-Leicester game. I think Brentford will win, but at the same time, if Leicester do score, you would back Maddison to be involved. So, yeah, I think it is ultimately worth it, but just be a bit careful with getting rid of Mariko Henry. Maybe you could get rid of Stupinian instead. Saka or Kane captain this game week? I'm currently going for Kane. Thoughts on Salah for 29? We covered that just a few minutes ago, I believe. I'm not that fussed about buying him back in for 29 because Chelsea are improving, 2 away fixtures where Liverpool really struggle at. So I'm still not, completely settled on buying Salah back in. It might be Bruno Fernandes instead. No, there's no UCL fantasy stream. We only do it for deadline streams. Maybe in the future I'll be doing a substitution window kind of stream as well. But later in the stream, I think I will show you. So when we get the lineups for the games today, I'll also show you quite quickly the Champions League team and what my head is at. But honestly, I haven't really made any changes anyway. I've got the same captain as day one in Joao Mario, and I haven't made any subs yet, and I don't think I will until tomorrow. Good week for me, 56 points and 5 more players to play. Yeah, that looks pretty decent. 16 points on the bench. Too bad, could use the boost as I could use the wildcard already. To be honest though, I think Game Week 29, your bench should score higher than that, but let's wait and see. I don't think so. Havertz has 3 home games in the next 2, and also Chelsea have looked better recently, but I still don't like Havertz too much as an FPL option. He's too inconsistent for me, for my liking. I'd rather go for Watkins, but he's not a bad choice for the next 2 anyway. Once again, Sebastian, if I had to pick one, it'd be a Stupinian to sell, but I could definitely change my mind by the time I release the team selection video on Thursday. It's a really tough debate, but I think the extra player could definitely play a part in Game Week 28. Best replacement for Salah? Just an Arsenal midfielder, really, or James Maddison. I'm not a big fan of the rest, including Almiron. Most of the midfielders this week aren't great, and that's why I went for a 3-man midfield in the free hit team. Yeah, 10 players is completely fine, especially if you didn't wildcard yet. Henry and March to Chill and Maddison with a hit. Yeah, we covered. Bench Saka and Odegaard started. Yeah, I did the opposite. I started Saka and benched Odegaard. That didn't turn out well, unfortunately. Welcome, Tech. Good to see you. Hi, Dylan. I'm on Game Week 28 wildcard. Who are the best Blank Gameweek players to keep on the bench on the wildcard? My thinking at the moment is Rashford, Shaw, Matoma. That's pretty much the 3 I have, but I think I've got a Stupinian instead of Shaw. But ultimately, as you'll see in tomorrow's video, I would get Luke Shaw in potentially in Game Week 29, possibly take a -4 hit, and then also bring in someone like Bruno Fernandes or Salah. You'll see all of that in the video tomorrow, and it's already out for patrons and channel members. But yeah, it's pretty much the same, bench that you talked about there. Will you continue with Joao Mario captain? Yes, I will. I don't see any need to change it. The last time I was a bit greedy with the captaincy in UCL Fantasy, it came back to bite me. No, I wouldn't be able to because I'm not a big fan of Havertz, so I can't, convince you of something that I'm not sure about myself. Havertz has 3 home games in the next 2 game weeks. That's the only thing I can say in his favour, alongside Chelsea improving in recent weeks, and Havertz has some decent underlying numbers in some games, such as the one against Borussia Dortmund, and he also took the penalty there. But other than that, I think Ollie Watkins is a superior asset. Would you consider Harrison from Leeds? Honestly, no. Botman or Henry for a free transfer? Botman. I think Estupinian is an easy sell. Yeah, I disagree. I think he is a good player for Game Week 29, and I think he will play in the first game. But as I said earlier to a few people like Sebastian, my current thinking is to sell Estupinian, and if as by the time we get to Game Week 29, close to the deadline, if I have a feeling he will start in both games and I'm very confident of it, then I can always bring him back in. But I think I'd rather have the extra player in 28 and then possibly bring in Chilwell for Stupinian, and then in 29 I could then bring in someone else, basically. So yeah, I don't think it's an easy sell, but I'd also be more open-minded to it now than I was maybe a few weeks ago. Haaland to Watkins, and in Game Week 30, Tony to Haaland back. Yeah, that's what I'm looking to do myself. It looks pretty decent. Yeah, Soufal's injured. Similarly, would avoid West Ham assets for now, but Benrahma, Bowen, Ings, Areola, Zuma, Agard, the only ones that should be considered. Yeah, even then, to be honest, with Benrahma, he's always, I wouldn't say he's always performing well, but in recent weeks, I think he's probably the best West Ham player. Yeah, he's always the one that gets hooked off early by David Moyes, so that already puts me off. Jarrod Bowen's been very inconsistent this season, so despite his high ceiling, it's kind of few and far between. Danny Ings has been, kind of on and off, and the defenders, just not enough clean sheets. So really, yeah, I agree. I don't think West Ham assets are really worth going for, but those would be the ones to kind of highlight. Is Haaland to Watkins a must? No, it's not a must, but I would go for it myself, and I'll talk about this in the team selection too. Welcome, Ashish. Thank you very much for that. I'm doing well, and hopefully you're doing well too. Who should I buy this week? Watkins or Chilwell, or both for a -4? If I'm -4, then I could field 9 players. If Chilwell, then who do I sell? I'd rather sell Robertson. Robertson has 2 away fixtures where I think maybe a clean sheet against Chelsea is possible, but not one against City. I don't see it happening. And honestly, If I had to back one team in Game Week 29 between Chelsea and Liverpool, I actually would back Chelsea a little bit more to get the victory because it's at Stamford Bridge. But I think that will be a draw. It could even be a 1-1 or something. So I don't see too many points for Robertson in the process. I'd rather sell him, have Zinchenko for Game Weeks 28 and 29 potentially. And you could always sell Zinchenko in 29 for Luke Shaw or a Stupinian or another defender. Is it worth taking a -4 hit for Watkins and Chilwell? I think it is, to be fair. If I had to prioritise one, I think it would be Watkins. I have 4 playing players for Game Week 28. Wildcard or free hit with the team I have. Yeah, Lager, I think I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, I would rather wildcard, looking at your team, and even if you got in the likes of Tony, which you talked about a few days ago, I think I'd rather wildcard. But if you decide to free hit, I completely understand. I don't think there's a right or wrong there, but I'd rather wildcard, cover the next 2 game weeks, maybe bench boost in 29, and then free hit around Game Week 32. I'm after a midfielder for Game Week 28. I already have 3 Arsenal. I have Rashford, Matoma, and March. Yeah, the only midfielder I'd really consider, to be honest, is Maddison. The other one would be Almiron, but I just don't think it's worth it. So Maddison or nothing, really, for me. I'm down to bench boost in Game Week 29. Yeah, in that case, Lager, I'd wildcard for sure. But that's just my personal opinion. I've been liking Enzo, his way of pass, his quality. Yeah, like I said, I've always been impressed by him, watching him for Argentina, for River Plate, and for Benfica. I still don't think the Chelsea move was right for him, but in recent weeks there has been an improvement, and in a few years' time, Chelsea could certainly become a good team, and a competitive one at that. But yeah, I mean, you look at the team he just left, Benfica, they're absolutely flying right now. And Enzo, of course, is a quality player. Is he worth 120 million? Definitely not, but I think he could end up being a decent signing nonetheless. Hey mate, Gakpo's my captain and Pope vice-captain, scored 53 points still. Yeah, that's surprising. I mean, despite Gakpo facing Bournemouth, I never would have captained him, to be honest. And even Salah, despite his 21 points against United, I was still saying to people, he's not my favourite single game week option. I'd rather captain Rashford or Kane. And Liverpool are still not back yet. And I was seeing someone talk to me and saying, what would you do if Liverpool win 9-0 again? And I just said, I don't see that happening, mate. And there you go. Hey, Dylan, what forwards could be differentials? Iheanacho and Kai Havertz. Yeah, Gabriel Jesus, of course. I mean, the thing is, surprisingly, he's still got quite decent ownership, around 20%, if I'm not mistaken. Richarlison, I just wouldn't go for. He's got 0 Premier League goals. I know he should have had that goal stand against Forest, but I wouldn't go for him. I'd rather go for Iheanacho or Havertz if you really want a differential. And Watkins is still quite low owned as well. No worries, Sebastian. So what do you think about Odegaard to Maddison and Saka to Bruno maybe? Literally, in the wildcard video you'll see tomorrow, I propose very similar transfers for the wildcard squad there. So I like those moves, and I think it's worth it. And Maddison, I mean, until the end of the season, I think Odegaard is better, but Maddison has the double, and for a bench boost, it looks fantastic. 14 doublers is ideal, and I'm guessing the only single gimmick option you have would be an Arsenal player or maybe Harry Kane. That looks fantastic. People fear-mongering Estupinian playing 4 days before Game Week 28, but no talk about Matoma. Yeah, no, I completely agree, Tech. I don't think it's a must-sell. The reason why I'm a bit more open to selling Estupinian is because of Chilwell's form, and also to be able to add that 11th player in Game Week 28. But that will be the big conundrum for me. I will bring in Watkins for Erling Haaland. The next question is, do I bring in Maddison or Ben Chilwell? And if it is Chilwell, then most likely it'll be Estupinian making way. But I like that double for Brighton. So yeah, it's not completely set in stone. And if you make that argument for Estupinian, you could say the same for Matoma. I think both of them will start in the first game and also the second one of Double Gameweek 29 too. I'm only making 1 or 2 subs for Game Week 28, which is Haaland to Watkins. I will have 2 transfers for Game Week 29. Should I play with 10 or go for 11? Yeah, honestly, it just depends on the second player you'd bring in for Game Week 28, and I'm guessing it would involve someone like Chilwell or Maddison. And they are worthwhile because they also are really good for Game Week 29, but it's not completely necessary. And having 2 free transfers after an international break for a double game week to facilitate your bench boost might be ideal for you. So I think 10 is enough, Abraham, to be quite frank. But 11 would also be ideal. It's just not completely necessary either. What are your thoughts about Henry to Chilwell? I'd rather have Chilwell from now, and you'll see that in the wildcard video tomorrow too. I will have no Brentford defenders whatsoever. That doesn't mean they aren't good options all of a sudden, but I'd just rather go for Chilwell and the other assets, including Estupinian as well. If I had to pick between Estupinian and Henry to keep long term, it is Estupinian. But for those of us that are struggling to get to an 11 in Game Week 28, it might make more sense to sell Estupinian. So it's not an easy decision, to be honest, but yeah, I think that is a good transfer. Should I transfer, or who should I transfer Bueno out for? Chilwell, if you can. I know it's a different price point and you might not be able to afford it. If that's the case and you need someone a bit cheap, then I probably would recommend someone like Botman. I think Botman would be a really good option if you don't have him already. Brian Mid, Matoma, McAllister to Maddison this week. How would it be? I'd rather keep Matoma and sell McAllister, despite what's happened in recent weeks with McAllister scoring the goals. Yeah, I think so. With Arsenal, it's a tricky one because they can rotate and still have a good starting 11 against Sporting. If you look at the bench against Fulham, it was very, very strong. I've never seen an Arsenal bench that strong in years. So let's say, for example, Arsenal bench Trossard, bench Saka, they can still play Nelson and Jesus in the front three against Sporting and also play Martinelli. They could have a really strong team, Jorginho in for Partey, and there's obviously going to be a few downgrades, and Partey to Jorginho is still a downgrade, but it's still good enough to beat Sporting and to go through to the next round. And yeah, I think Arsenal should go strong, but not put the full 11, and players like Partey should be rested because they are injury prone and Arsenal need them for the future too. Thank you very much. You never walk alone. I appreciate that as always. You didn't have to, but as always, very much appreciate. And same with all the support you've shown throughout the year. So thank you very much. If you've got any more questions or comments, let me know. And hopefully I'll see you as well for the deadline stream on Friday as well. Thank you, Yash. Chilwell or James? Definitely Chilwell right now. He's starting games. Reece James is, just come back from an injury. He's got illnesses. There's always something up with him. I'd rather go for Chilwell right now, despite the fact that they're both pretty much injury prone in the grand scheme of things. Yeah, Goldhead, I think a lot of us are in that situation, unfortunately. My preliminary plans are to go Henry to Chilwell, and other free transfers, I have no clue. Yeah, for me, it's going to be either Henry or Estupinian out for Chilwell. If not, it's going to be Maddison in for Solly March. And of course, I think the one that's set in for me is Watkins in for Erling Haaland. As a Newcastle fan, I'm unsure about who starts, Isak or Wilson for us. Personally, I like Isak as our starter. Yeah, I completely agree. I said this even back in the day when I think Isak was starting games. He scored a penalty. It might have been against Bournemouth. He got a 9-pointer. And that's always going to be a conundrum for me. And in recent weeks, I just don't get it. Isak should be starting games, but Wilson's still been getting the nod. And I've seen some Newcastle fans vent their frustrations online towards Eddie Howe and his team selection. But yeah, I think until we get a clarified or nailed-on starter, I'd avoid for now. And the only Newcastle forward or attacker that I would consider is Almiron. But even then, I just haven't seen enough there from the attackers. Thank you, Lager. Yeah, pretty much that wildcard team facilitates a bench boost, and I do talk about a -4 hit, but you don't need to take it. But basically with that hit, you can get up to 13 doublers, and you can also get Harry Kane and an Arsenal midfielder as part of your bench boost, which is certainly ideal. And in terms of FPL.team, the predicted points range between 137 and 139, depending on which duo you go for. I talk about Salah versus Bruno Fernandes, and also Saka versus a cheaper Arsenal midfielder. You'll see all of that tomorrow, and like I said, patrons and channel members can also already see this video. It's already out for, I think, pretty much the entire day. Estupinian might miss the first game. There's a lot of fear-mongering, like Tech said, online, and I've said this even last week. My personal opinion is that Estupinian will play and start both games. Of course, the possibility of a benching does exist, but I think he'll start both games, and certainly Brian will be in communication with Ecuador and probably ask them to maybe rest him or, have him released early back to Brighton so he can be available for the games, because Brighton are in contention for a European spot. They need him as soon as possible. I have a wildcard free hit bench boost. My team in Gameweek 28 is bad. Can I Gameweek 28 wildcard 29 bench boost? Good plan. Yes, Akash. And if you are, kind of in any trouble, the wildcard video will be up for you tomorrow quite early on, and that could also give you some ideas there. You can get an 11 in Gameweek 28 with that wildcard squad, 13 doublers and 29, and if you don't take the hit, you can have 12 anyway and have a very good squad regardless. And yeah, 8 players is enough with a -4, but with a wild card, if you can sort out so many issues there, I'd probably recommend it. Martinez or Raya in Gameweek 28. Martinez has the better fixture, but Bournemouth have been in decent form. You know what? I think I'd still go for Raya, oddly enough, which does sound a bit weird. Pedro Porro, guaranteed starter? No. The only reason he's starting recently is because Emerson Real picked up an injury against AC Milan. He was subbed off around 70 minutes there, and since then he's been struggling with a bit of a problem, but he should be back fairly soon. And let's not forget, Emerson Real's been one of Spurs' best players in recent months. Kane to Darwin in Gameweek 29? Honestly, I don't think I would. I know Darwin's a decent option now, and he's got a lot of potential. I think he's going to become a good FPL option in the years to come, but I would rather have Harry Kane. I wouldn't do that. I have wildcard. Yeah, we covered that, Akash. What do you think about Isak instead of Watkins? As a Newcastle fan pointed out just now, I don't think it's worth taking the plunge on a Newcastle forward. There's a lot of rotation there between Wilson and Isak. Isak has been decent whenever he's come off the bench or started games, but I don't think it's worth going for him when Newcastle are struggling to score goals. And I think with Newcastle, the defenders and goalkeeper is where you really want to invest your assets in. And Watkins is in great form over the last 6 game weeks. You've got Erling Haaland long-term, Harry Kane, even Iheanacho is someone worth considering, not to mention Ivan Toney, Kai Havertz. I'd actually rank all of them probably above Isak right now. And that's saying a lot because I'm not a big fan of Havertz. I like your point on keeping the 2 free transfer 29. Who exactly has a double game week then other than Brighton? For game week 29, we've got a lot of doublers, including Man United, and that's why I'm set on captaining Rashford in game week 29. We've also got West Ham having a double, which is why a lot of people are talking about West Ham despite their struggles this season. Leicester have a double. Brentford have a double. There's a lot, but we'll just talk about it on screen now and you can see it. So yeah, literally in 29, these are the teams that are doubling, and they include Bournemouth, Brighton, Leeds, Nottingham Forest, Leicester, Aston Villa, Chelsea, Liverpool, Man United, Brentford, West Ham and Newcastle. So we have 12 teams doubling. So yeah, the likes of Spurs don't double, Arsenal don't either, and Man City's another one. But Arsenal still have a good fixture at home to Leeds. Man City are facing Liverpool, but you'd still back them to get some FPL points, especially in the case of Erling Haaland. So yeah, it might be hiding behind the sofa, those of us that don't have Erling Haaland by that stage. But yeah, those are the 12 teams that are doubling. We've covered it already a few weeks ago, I think, or months ago. It's all a bit of a blur right now. But yeah, those 12 teams are doubling, those playing on the Tuesday and Wednesday, the 4th and 5th of April. So yeah, that is all covered. And just to remind anyone that isn't aware, in Game Week 28, the likes of Brighton, Man United, Man City and Liverpool are all blanking in Game Week 28, and these are the teams that are left. And I think Arsenal, a triple up in them is definitely viable for now, but they don't double in 29 and also probably until the end of the season. So it's going to be a bit tricky to navigate this, but basically you'd want 2 or 3 Arsenal players now, then trim it down as we get through each single week to Game Week 29 and also future doubles as well. So yeah, back to my team. I'll be showing you my team selection and stuff like that in the team selection video. You'll see my wildcard squad too, which has some key changes actually from the last few editions. And you will see my transfer plans as well and the proposed moves I recommend for Game Week 29 to facilitate a bench boost that can work really well for you. And thank you very much to anyone who's been watching. It's very much appreciated. If you haven't already, you know what to do. Smash the like button and subscribe for new. It really helps out the channel. And thank you to everyone who's been showing support in all these streams and videos. And whenever I kind of decide to stream, whenever I have time for it, you're always here, and I do appreciate that. Let's see what else we have. Mara's bench says tech. Oh yeah, thank you for reminding me. We're going to go through the Champions League lineup soon because I'm guessing some UCL fantasy players will pop along and ask some questions about, you know, what should I do with my captaincy, my bench as well. So we'll go through that very soon. Thank you for that. Yeah, Mahrez is, yeah, I had a feeling that could happen, but I was still happy to keep him. And yeah. Thank you, Abraham, as well, for letting me know. Yeah, that is a bit of a shocker, isn't it? I'm still going to keep him in my starting 11, though, and then make the substitution if necessary tomorrow. Thank you, Ashish. Should I wait for the rest of the matches to finish? I probably would. Unless you're going to be priced out of something you really want to do, I would just wait because there's not much value in chasing price rises and falls. I would favour Kepa this week. And you've seen it in the free hit team video, and you'll also see in the wildcard when I go to FPL.team and show you the starting 11 as well. Al said Isak is not fit enough to go for 90 minutes, though the game against Wolves was the first time we had Botman. Yeah, that's fair enough. So Maximan, Bruno and Isak in the starting 11. I do think Almiron should still be dropped. Yeah, I've seen, you know, Almiron, Callum Wilson, amongst a few other players, including Dan Burn, that Newcastle fans are clamouring to, you know, be benched and to try someone else in those positions. Solanke or Iheanacho? Solanke's decent at that price, but I'd rather go for Iheanacho. That's fair enough. I'd go for Iheanacho. Top 3 defenders long term. Great question. You know what? I think my top 3 would be Kieran Trippier still. That's a good one. Yeah, Kieran Trippier. I think Chua right now. And the third one would be Estupiñán. That would be my ideal top 3. And I think a few others that are close contenders include Luke Shaw. Haaland to Havertz or Felix? That's a good question. Yeah, Felix is obviously a decent choice. Havertz has been performing well recently, it has to be said, scoring against Leicester and Borussia Dortmund, but still very inconsistent for me. I I'm not sure. In terms of those two, I think Felix is the overall better player, but from an FPL perspective, with Havertz on penalties as well, potentially, maybe I would favour Havertz right now, but maybe I think the last two results for him have maybe played a big part in my thinking there. I don't think there's a huge standout either way, which you can probably tell by that. I'm everywhere, mate, says Tech. Yeah, wildcard draft, you'll see it tomorrow, so be patient, you'll see it tomorrow. There's going to be a video out, and channel members can already see it, so yeah. No chance Tech is also here. Yeah, 4 centre-backs and no right winger. Pepper's lost the plot. Well, hopefully he loses the plot in the Premier League, so that helps someone else win the Premier League. But yeah, Haaland is a cyborg at the Etihad. Yeah, I think if I were to change the captaincy, yeah, he would be my captain today. And tomorrow it would be either Osimhen or Kvaratskhelia. Captain Tony versus Leicester. Yeah, they are poor, but I'm not sure if I'd captain him. I mean, he'd definitely be in the conversation. But honestly, I mean, yeah, it's actually worth considering. I haven't mentioned it in any of my videos, but he certainly is in the top 5, I think, from those in my starting 11 for the free hit and wildcard teams, and also for my own team selection. So I would definitely consider it, yeah. Need to change my predictor then. Oh, yeah. I think I put Erling Haaland man of the match. If you had all 4 chips, when would you use them? So kind of roughly, because I can't, you know, say this for absolutely everybody, but I'd probably wildcard now, bench boost in 29, triple captain in Game Week 34, and free hit in Game Week 32. That's what I think I'd do, Zaid. What is this banter there, Tech and Godhead? Jesus. Yeah, wildcard team, once again, the video is going to come out tomorrow, so there's no point me going through that right now. We're going to try to cover some different questions and topics, but you'll see it tomorrow. You know, that video will be dedicated to that, and you'll see some proposed plans there if you're looking to bench boost in 29. I took out Zinchenko for Chilwell and Martinelli in for March, as I want to catch whatever one of the Arsenal mids hauls. Yeah, that's fair enough. And I prefer Mitoma to March, and I feel like Arsenal have a higher potential mids. Yeah, they certainly do, but Arsenal also have a good defence overall. They don't keep many clean sheets at home, but they do on their travels, and they actually have the best away record in general. Also in terms of goals conceded, clean sheets, and all of that. And Ramsdale now has the most clean sheets, I think, alongside Nick Pope. So the Golden Glove race is certainly hottening up a little bit. Thank you, Ashish, and I appreciate you watching all the way from India. The same goes for everyone else watching from all over the world. Welcome, Dravidan. Almiron in for March Game Week 28. I like him for a single game week, but honestly, I'd rather go for Maddison or an Arsenal midfielder. I was talking about Haaland at the Etihad versus Liverpool. Yeah, I mean, that's true as well. I mean, I think Haaland will score in that game, especially with Liverpool's travels. You know, they've been awful this season. I think they've won 3 away games, and they concede plenty of goals too. I'm not sure I want to sell Haaland for Watkins when he's playing at home. That's fair, but the reason why you're doing that is because Watkins has an extra fixture in 29, and he also has an extra fixture in 28. So that's 3 versus 1. You would back Watkins to outscore Haaland in the next 2 game weeks. Watkins captain in Game Week 28, he's definitely a contender. The same goes for Ivan Toney. I think I put Watkins in my top 3, but I am looking to go for Harry Kane right now. It's certainly not, you know, a clear standout. I think we can all agree on that. I know Harry Kane's the most consistent, but he also, I wouldn't say he's a clear standout over the rest with the fixture, and also considering how poor Spurs can be on their day. I've got a wildcard and bench boost left. 4 players blanking this week. Should I wildcard now or wait? If you mean 4 players blanking in your entire 50-man squad, that's not too bad, but I'm guessing you mean 4 players blanking in your starting 11, so you've got 7 out of 15 players that have a fixture. I think I'd wildcard now and bench boost in 29J, and also, whenever you're bench boosting, I think there's a huge appeal to wildcard shortly beforehand, because you can optimize that chip as well in most cases, so I'd probably do that. Wildcard now, bench boost in 29. So I'm going to keep on going for some questions very soon, so appreciate everything that's coming in, but I also want to cover some Champions League stuff here, and you know, because we're here, and UCL Fantasy is very popular in general, but let's just go through this right now. Let me see if I can go through the lineup, because I still haven't seen it for myself, but I can already imagine what's going through Pep's head. I absolutely love the geezer. But yeah, let's bring this up on screen, and yeah, let's go to the Champions League website, and as you can see, yeah, Riyad Mahrez is benched, and Man City just continue to surprise us. So Pep Guardiola, should we say. Edison's in goal, Stones, Akanji, Ruben Dias, Ake. It looks like that could be the back 4 from now until the end of the season. There will be some exceptions where Kyle Walker comes in at right back, but honestly, you could see this being the back 4. Honestly, I mean, I think most City fans would rather have Stones at centre-back with Ruben Dias and have Walker right back, but there you go. Rodri, De Bruyne, Gundogan, Grealish, Bernardo Silva, and Erling Haaland. And there you can see Leipzig's team as well. I don't think many people have any of their UCL fantasy assets But yeah, that looks like a decent team from Leipzig. Still no Nkunku, of course. He's still come back from an injury. I don't even know if he's on the bench, is he? No, he isn't. And look at Simikan, by the way. He was a great UCL fantasy option in the group stages, and it just hasn't really worked out for him in the knockouts so far. Yeah, Mahrez there on the bench is just not ideal. And let's not forget, the Lax Laporte is also on the bench, Alvarez. But you look at that bench, there's no Foden. I thought he would be in the starting 11 with Mahrez also left out. I mean, fair enough. They could definitely make the difference coming off the bench. A bit similar to how I think Grealish and Mahrez made the difference against Chelsea a few months ago, coming off the bench at Stamford Bridge. But yeah, there we have it. That is the Man City and Leipzig lineups. And let's go through Porto very briefly before going back to FPL. If you've got any more UCL fantasy questions, be sure to drop them in. I'll try to answer them very briefly. We don't have the the Inter Milan or Porto lineups. There we go. Oh my God, they're trying to get me copyright, aren't they? They really are putting the video up. But yeah, let's go back to this team. Let me try to sort out any issues that we may have with YouTube because they like to cause problems. And UEFA will probably say something now. Give me a second. Yeah, okay, all good for now, but I can just tell something dumb's going to happen. All right, let's go back to your questions. You changed your captaincy to Haaland? No, I'm not changing the captaincy in UCL Fantasy. I got a wildcard and bench boost left. I have 4 players blanking this week. Yeah, we covered, so apologies for that. You think Son Heung-min is a decent differential? I would only go to Heung-min Son as a player to get on the free hit. I would not buy him in with a normal transfer because ultimately I'd sell him to Bruno Fernandes or Salah in Gameweek 29. But on a free, I would consider him. I actually briefly mentioned him, but the reason why I didn't feature in the squad is because he ultimately has been very poor this season. Should I sell Kane for Tony Havertz for next week? I honestly wouldn't. It's not a bad transfer, but the reason why I wouldn't is because Ivan Toney, the time to get him in is right now, or preferably even before, around Game Week 26-27. And also Tony's fixtures turn very soon. Kai Havertz has 3 home games in the next 2, but I think Harry Kane's just a far more consistent asset. Who can be the biggest differential in the Game Week 28 wildcard team? I think Chilwell would be up there. He would be right up there. That's a good question, though. Maddison's also relatively low owned, and I think his recent returns will put people off because he hasn't been scoring the goals or getting the assists, and most people do look at that, and they chase last week's points. Who would be the top midfielders to bring in for Game Week 29? For Game Week 29, my ideal midfield 5 for that game week would be Rashford, Mitoma. I'd also go for one of Salah or Bruno Fernandes, and then the others would probably include an Arsenal midfielder because they also help you cover Game Week 28, and the other midfielder would probably be, I'm already forgetting this, I think Maddison, would be the other one. Yeah, that would be the midfield 5. Haaland can outscore any double game week forward in 29, of course, and I even say this in the wildcard video. Double game week players can be a trap, and we all kind of are so obsessed with getting these double game week players, maximizing the returns, the potential ones, and in the end, these single game week options like Harry Kane last week end up being one of the highest scoring players. You got Gabriel as well, outscoring most of these defenders from Brighton and Brentford. So yeah, I don't think that's a bad point. Haaland's also great at home. He's great everywhere, but particularly at home. Gabriel for Zinchenko, I don't think it's worth making that move one way or the other. I actually prefer Zinchenko still. Gabriel has more attacking threat. He's actually scored 10 goals in the last 3 seasons, the only defender to reach that milestone. He's really good from set pieces. He's a huge threat, great in the air. But Zinchenko's slightly better for bonus points, I feel, and also in terms of the build-up in the Arsenal attacks. So I think he's got that assist threat over Gabriel too. So generally, from now until the end of the season, I think Zinchenko will get more attacking returns, despite his overall record not being that great in terms of goals and assists. Thank you, Jay, and also thank you to Chris for the super chat. Have wildcard and free hit and 10 doublers in 29, like Kepa, Trippier, Estupinian, Henry, Rashford, Mitoma, Bruno, Maddison, Tony, Haaland, Watkins. Save wildcard till Game Week 33, bench boost 34. Yes, I mean, I'll be honest. My preference is the bench boost in 29. There's more doubles in general. We've got 12 teams doubling, and there's some good quality fixtures in there. So I would rather bench boost in 29 because even these single game week options like the Arsenal ones, they've got Leeds at home, and you would back the likes of Saka, Trossard, Martinelli, Odegaard, and even Sinchenko to give you some returns there. But in your situation, I think it does make sense to save the wild card for 33 after the blank game week in 32, and then you can bench boost in 34. And yeah, you can also free hit, by the way, in 32. So the reason why I think that could really work out well for you, Chris, is because whenever you use a free hit or wild card, you only have one free transfer in the following week. And because Game Week 32 will likely have the likes of Man United, Brighton, Liverpool and Chelsea blanking, you can kind of dead end your team to Game Week 32, or to 31 should I say, free in 32, and then you only have one free transfer in 33. So what do? You wildcard and then bench boost in 34. So I think that sequence of chips is probably the right thing for you. You've obviously thought about this much more than I have with your team, and I think it's the right call for you. Yeah, Raum was electric at Hoffenheim. I think you mentioned him a lot in the World Cup fantasy videos. I think he did mention him a lot in the group stages, and he was fairly decent in that as well. Yeah, the Leipzig backline is class. Yeah, Leipzig I think will cause some problems, but ultimately City should win that. Then again, maybe the selections today of no Mahrez and Foden and starting 11 could cost Man City. Let's wait and see. I actually would prefer City to go through just so they focus more on the Champions League than the Premier League, but that's kind of a selfish reason. If I activate free hit, can I change the wildcard? No. So once you activate either the free hit or wildcard, the decision is irreversible and you cannot cancel it. The only chips you can cancel are the triple captain and the bench boost. I think we'll see this game 4-0 or 3-1 and Haaland 2 goals, KDB assists, I think Grealish masterclass and Mahrez goal. And yes, I'm a City fan. That maybe explains it. I think it'll be a bit tighter than that. I think it might be 2-0. And Man City, I mean, they have blown some teams away this season, but not to... How do I say this? Not as frequently as they have done in years gone by. I think a 2-0 standard professional performance is likely. I think 3-1's a good prediction. I just don't see a 4-0, but then again, I could be wrong about this, and I'm not necessarily great at predicting scores. Rather, outcomes is what I'm maybe better at. Will you continue with Mario Captain? Yes. Yes, I will. Which winger would you love to see at Arsenal next season if money is no issue? I mean, winger now is not a big priority as it was maybe a year ago, but I'd love to see someone like Kvaratskhelia. I mean, there's always the risk that a player like that could be a one-season wonder, but I don't think that'll be the case with him. He's probably the one that stands out already to me. Thank you, Connor. I appreciate that. Chat Sport says, will you be selling Haaland or holding him? My current preference is to sell him, and I can always bring him back in around Game Week 30. I know he can do really well against Liverpool, maybe even score 2 or 3 goals, but I am backing the likes of Watkins with 3 fixtures compared to 1 of Erling Haaland over the next 2 game weeks to outscore him. Triple captain and 34 on who? We don't have complete confirmation of the doubles yet in Game Week 34, but Man United are one team that could have a double, and if that's the case, I think Rashford would be a great captaincy option there. So yeah, that is a possibility. If you don't have the bench boost, or should I say, if you've already used the bench boost and you've got the triple captaincy still in your back pocket, then you could just use it in 29 on Rashford. Andre Silva bench is surprising for Leipzig, but his recent form has been questionable. Yeah, Andre Silva had that kind of really big spell maybe a year or 2 ago, but he's never really struck me as a great striker or great player overall. But yeah, let's wait and see. He could make an impact off the bench as well. Keeping Salah for double game at 29 or selling for Maddison? It depends on your situation. If you've got a full 11 already, there's no need to do it, of course. That goes without saying. But my guess is that you have 9 or 10 players and you want to fill in even more. I think Maddison is worth buying in. And also, when I look at Game Week 29, I'm not really that sure about Salah and his prospects because he's facing a improving Chelsea side, although they're still a bit suspect, and they're facing Man City. And both of them are away, more importantly. And that could really put me off. My double Game Week 29 bench will likely be Ward, Kane, Saka and Gabriel. Yeah, that looks really solid, to be honest. That should get you 15 plus points. Harry Kane alone could get you 8 or 9 of those by himself. And then you look at Saka and the others, that could easily be a good bench boost. I'm looking at my situation and I could have Kane, Saka as well. And I think the other ones would be Raya and someone like Ben Mee on my bench. I mean, that looks fairly decent too. Free hit, we literally had a free hit team video released yesterday, so check that out. And the only difference or change I'd make is Almiron in for one of Jensen or Leon Bailey. I think that's pretty much it. And then it's up to you in terms of, do you start Almiron over a Newcastle defender like Botman or Cher, or do you go for that Newcastle defender? Maybe you want to bench someone else instead like Maddison. It's completely up to you, but I think that's the only change I would do. I mean, yeah, but Messi is kind of... He is still technically a winger, but he plays in more central areas nowadays. And yeah, I mean, Messi is kind of a generic answer, so I'd rather go for something a bit different. Yeah, Mbappe as well. I mean, traditionally he is a winger, but for PSG and France, he's basically playing up front. And also, I know, I think Kvaratskhelia is a bit more pleasing on the eye than Mbappe. Obviously, people are probably going to slate me for that, but that's just my personal opinion. Dylan, as FPL grows bigger and bigger, how do you see FPL content change? That's a great question. How do you see FPL content changing? Well, I think there will be more types of videos. I think once we get maybe some new chips as well, which we should get maybe in, I'm not sure when, maybe I shouldn't say that, but you would gather or you'd guess that FPL will start to make a few changes to appeal to a mass audience instead of having the same old chips. I think every few years they'll renovate, so we'll have maybe some videos for some different types of chips. And I think with FPL growing bigger, I think there'll be more focus on chip strategies and also on double game weeks, which maybe for better or worse is still going to be very popular. So yeah, other than that, I mean, I'd love to give you a more in-depth answer, maybe going to the crux of that. Yeah, that'll be interesting to monitor. Maybe I'll go back to that question because there's a good one. But I think, yeah, generally, I think it's just going to be more focus on strategy and also on double game weeks. Watkins or Isak? Watkins. Surely Mbappe will be another good choice. Of course he would, but I see him more as a striker nowadays. And also, like I said, I think Kvaratskhelia will be one of the standouts for me. Is Tony still in danger of a ban? In terms of the betting gambling thing, yes, but that would be after the hearing, which still hasn't happened yet. I think after the international break is when we can start to worry a little bit more. But either way, around Gameweek 30-31 is when I'd look to sell Ivan Toney. Thank you, Chatspor. I appreciate it. Start Kepa or Raya? I would go for Kepa. Is United a totally reliable team right now going forwards? Well, a big reason why they drew is because they had 10 men. Are Man United completely reliable like a Man City or Arsenal right now? No, they're not. But they're also in 4 competitions. They won the Carabao Cup, they're going far in the FA Cup and the Europa League, and they have done well in those competitions. Let's give them their credit. And until recently, they had an outside chance of competing for the Premier League title. So, yeah, I still think United are one of the more reliable teams in the league. Are they someone you can completely trust and have a triple up all season? No, not necessarily, but they still have some great options like Luke Shaw, Bruno Fernandes and Rashford. Kane to Iheanacho in 29 for 15 doubles. I mean, it makes sense. I honestly, when I look at the fixtures, I think Kane can outscore Iheanacho with that one game week alone. And I'd rather have Harry Kane long term, but that looks completely fine FPL, Josh. I mean, Iheanacho is one of the better forwards to buy right now, so it is a decent transfer. Chilwell for Zinchenko, Henry or Stupinian? The one I'd like to sell most long-term is Henry, but he has a double in 29 and also features in 28. So when I look at that, I think it's either Zinchenko or Stupinian to sell. And it sounds a bit weird because I literally just said Henry for me is probably the worst of those 3. Now, it depends, Yusuf. Do you have a full 11? If that's the case, I'd rather sell Zinchenko because Arsenal don't keep that many clean sheets anyway at home. And you also would probably want to sell him in 29 for a double game week defender anyway. But if you don't have a full 11 and Zinchenko out for Chilwell doesn't add numbers to you and it could be a bit sideways, in that case, I'd rather sell Stupinian. So it just depends how many players you have in game week 28. If you have a full 11, I'd sell Zinchenko. If you have, let's say, 9 or 10, I'd probably sell Stupinian. Which teams are more likely to get more than one clean sheet in 29? I mean, I'll be honest. I don't think any team will keep. Well, maybe that's a exaggeration. I'm not confident of any team keeping 2 clean sheets in Game Week 29. Let me put it that way. So, if I had to say the most likely to keep 2 clean sheets, they would probably be Newcastle. I think Newcastle will be probably one of the more likely. I mean, no. I mean, now looking at it, Man United, no. I don't think they'll keep a clean sheet there. So, West Ham have certainly great fixtures, and they could even keep a 0-0 draw, against Newcastle. Southampton's a decent fixture, but really when I look at this, the most likely, maybe Man United actually. Despite facing Brentford and Newcastle, 2 decent teams. But I don't think any team keeps 2 clean sheets this week. Chelsea actually might surprisingly be one of the more likely. Liverpool struggle on their travels, and there are a lot of draws between Chelsea and Liverpool in recent years. So a 1-1 or a 0-0 is definitely on the cards. So yeah, most likely to keep a clean sheet would be Newcastle, Man United, Chelsea. Do I think they'll keep 2 clean sheets? No, I don't. I wish I could say one, but no. Maybe Brighton's the other one that I'm not giving enough credit. Brentford at home is relatively tough, but Brentford aren't that great on their travels, and Bournemouth away, yeah, that could be one as well. So yeah, those would be the 4 or 5 teams I'd kind of highlight as the most likely to keep a clean sheet, but 2, yeah, unfortunately I can't say that. Kane is one of the most consistent FPL assets of all time, I reckon. Of course, I completely agree. Once marked as a one-season wonder, that is a long, that's just a thing of the past, let's say. Kvaratskhelia, best winger. I mean, in world football, he's certainly up there right now. The question is, can he do this next season and beyond? I think he can, but there's the odd chance he doesn't. Realistic signings for Arsenal this summer. Arsenal are heavily linked with Declan Rice, Caicedo. McAllister's also a bit of an outside link, but I see him going to Man City, unfortunately. But yeah, I think realistic signings, I think, Declan Rice, Caicedo would be some of them. Who would I like to see? It'd be McAllister. I'd really like him to compete with Xhaka as the left centre midfielder, as the box-to-box player. It's tricky now because Arsenal suddenly have a better squad, but there's still, room for improvement there. I like the fullbacks, although Tomiyasu hasn't had a great season. I think his future might be as an inverted left back. He certainly has been playing better there compared to on the right-hand side. I think Arsenal could still do with a right back, I think, especially if Tomiyasu does play as a left back more often in the future. And I think the other one would be maybe... Yeah, I think a defensive midfielder is still necessary. I know Jorginho and Partey are there as the pivots, but I think a defensive midfielder is necessary. So defensive midfielder, centre mid like McAllister, and defensive midfielder, I mean, I'd like to see Caicedo, but I'm not so sure if that will happen now. Why Rashford captain with no Casemiro, says Buffy. Why Rashford captain? I'm talking about Game Week 29 to captain him, and yeah, even without Casemiro, Rashford was doing well in those fixtures against Leeds and also Leicester. So I wouldn't be looking too much into that. I think the main concern is defensively. Mitoma triple captain in Game Week 29. I'd actually rather go for Rashford, but Mitoma is actually up there in terms of the best captaincy options in that double game week. Liverpool Real Madrid prediction. We might as well go for it now. To be fair, it's a kind of chill stream anyway. So, let's go to this. My current predictions. Let me know your thoughts, by the way, and your predictions. I've gone for 1-0 Porto, 2-0 Man City, and also in terms of the first team to score, kind of goes without saying in those cases, but I've gone for Taremi and Erling Haaland as player of the matches. I've also gone for Napoli to win 2-0 against Frankfurt with Kvaratskhelia as player of the match, and I've gone for 3-2 Real Madrid with Vinicius Jr. being player of the match. And I actually liking this game to the Chelsea-Real Madrid game from last season at the Bernabeu, where Chelsea were down on aggregate. They go to Spain with nothing to lose, and they end up winning the game and giving Real Madrid a fright. I could see that happening here, but I think Liverpool will overcommit, and I think they'll leave some space on the counter-attack, and Real Madrid will just pick them apart. So I see a high-scoring game, which obviously I could be wrong, because sometimes these games could end up being low-scoring and more tactical, but I think it will be another high-scoring game, and I would just give Real Madrid the edge. I think Liverpool's away record is just too poor this season, despite them having a decent Champions League campaign so far, but I think it comes to an end here, and I think Madrid do get the victory, but it could go either way in terms of this individual game, but I think Madrid definitely advance, for sure. But Manu is better with Casemiro and he's out for 4 games. Yeah, of course. But from a defensive point of view, that will be the big concern. And Rashford is still, I think he has a great chance of scoring goals in those 2 games. I also look at the alternatives. Harry Kane has a single game week and, he's still a decent captaincy option. But away from home against Everton, I wouldn't be that convinced. Arsenal players I wouldn't captain at home to Leeds over the double game week options. Erling Haaland's still always up there. But yeah, for me, Rashford is still the best captaincy option, or definitely in the top 3. But I can understand why you're a bit sceptical, but that's still my current thoughts in terms of the captain in Game Week 29. We'll talk more about that once we get closer to that double game week, though. Any thoughts on differential picks? Maddison and Chilwell fit the bill. I think those, go without saying. Anyone else? Watkins is still around 8% ownership. Actually, if we check FPL again very quickly, let me just check Ollie Watkins' ownership. I'll probably buy him in, actually, very soon. Watkins has 9.9% ownership. It was actually around, 7% maybe a week ago or lower. But as you can see, things change very quickly in FPL. Ben Chilwell, 4.5% ownership. I think he's definitely up there. The other one would be Maddison. All right, so let's go back to my performance in Game Week 27. I almost forgot the week. So far, Raya in goal. That was the right decision, unless he gets a red card and minus points against Southampton. Ben Mee, Trippier, Stupinian, Rashford, Saka, March, Mitoma. Obviously, there's a lot of debate about March and his goal and whether it was his or not. In the end, no goal given, and that is that. Harry Kane with a brace, of course. You've got Ivan Toney and Erling Haaland. A fairly underwhelming week, though, and I think Mitoma giving me a return is going to completely transform my week. If he can get a goal, I think that gives me a healthy green arrow. The only kind of regret is maybe picking the wrong Arsenal player to start. I ended up somehow picking the lowest scoring Arsenal midfielder and player from my triple up in Bukayo Saka. He probably had one of his worst games of the season, whilst Arsenal had one of the best performances of the campaign, especially on the road against a decent Fulham side. Hi Dylan, best defender for Gameweek 28, 30, 31 because I'm free hitting in 29. Thank you, Nabil. That is a good question, and also quite a difficult one to answer too. So, Gameweek 28, I already have a good understanding of the fixtures. Just to remind myself of Gameweek 30 and 31, I think Chilwell already kind of springs to mind. Yeah, I think Chilwell is right up there as one of the best defenders for those 3 game weeks. I like Estupinian, but not for 30 and 31, unless Brighton get a double assigned to one of those game weeks. Anyone else? I think Newcastle defenders look good as well. Yeah, I think Trippier, Botman, whoever it may be, they also look good. So yeah, my answer would be Trippier and Chilwell. Those are the 2 best. And you can also add a second Newcastle defender to that list as well. And my preference is Botman overall. So yeah, that would be my answer. I've used my wildcard for Gameweek 28 and watch your wildcard Gameweek 28 video, and I don't have enough money for the Bruno and Shaw switch for Gameweek 29. How much money do you need though, Go G? If that is the case, then instead of Shaw, you could go for a cheaper defender. I'm trying to think here who else you could go for. Even Lisandro Martinez, although it is a downgrade from Luke Shaw from an FPL perspective. But yeah, I think that would look fairly decent for you. Yeah, if you've used your wildcard for Gameweek 28, another thing you can consider, by the way, is instead of Saka, go for Odegaard, Trossard, or Martinelli. I think that would be the easiest way for you to get Shaw and Bruno, if that's what you want to do. Do you think Solanke is the best super cheap option? I still prefer Brendan Johnson a little bit more, but it's really close between the 2. There's going to be inconsistencies. And also the other one I'd really highlight is Ferguson, but the big issue with him is minutes with Welbeck. So is Stupinian or Henry for Chilwell for a -4. I mean, for a -4 hit, I'd rather sell Stupinian because he doesn't have a fixture. Henry does, and Leicester have been awful, so even with Maddison back, I wouldn't be surprised if Brentford kept a clean sheet there or won by 2 or 3 in that game, and Henry could even get an attack in return. So I'd actually rather sell Stupinian despite my preference in Brighton defender, especially Stupinian, over Brentford ones in the long term up until Gameweek 38. But for the next 2 or 3 game weeks, you could argue, yeah, I'd rather keep Henry and sell Stupinian. Thank you, Tech. I appreciate that. See you on Friday for the next deadline stream there. If I have 2 transfers but I use my wildcard this week, will I get my 2 free transfers back in 29? No, you'll have 1 free transfer, Vedant, and the same goes for the free hit. Whenever you use the free hit or wildcard, you always have 1 free transfer in the following game week. So hopefully you got that. Tony or Watkins? I mean, in recent form, Watkins definitely takes the cake, but who would I rather have? I think Watkins still. Looking at the fixtures, yeah, I think for the next few game weeks, it's Watkins. Vinicius Jr. gives Trent nightmares. Yeah, I mean, Trent, look, he's a great player overall, great technique, but he's definitely vulnerable defensively. We all know this, of course. Not sure on scorelines. I'm going Porto comeback, then the favourites in the other 3 matches go as planned. Yeah, I went for Porto 1-0, and I'm backing that game to go to extra time, but it's a tricky game to call. It could even be 1-1. Thank you, Jay. No worries. I appreciate you tuning in. You need to work on the pronouns. To pronounce Kvaratskhelia name. Well, let me know because I'm sure Georgians can definitely correct me there. Your thoughts on Aston Villa defensive players? Not a big fan. Yes, Bournemouth looks like a great fixture, but I see Bournemouth scoring in that game. As I said with the Liverpool match just last week, I also saw Bournemouth scoring there too. Yeah, look, they're not bad choices. They have a double in 29 too, but they would kind of be at the lower end of the pecking order. I'd rather go for Newcastle, Man United, Brighton, defenders, and also maybe a few other teams as well. But they're not bad. It's just they're not that great. And Unai Emery teams are never that secure defensively, in my opinion. Haaland price drop likely today. Yeah. I mean, I could just make the transfer now. It doesn't really make a difference, but I would rather not run the risk of injured players and all of that, just in case. And I don't think I gain too much anyway in terms of rank rises. Oh my God, I'm just completely bottling it there. Price rises or drops. So yeah, I just don't see a need for it. If I was going to be priced out of my moves that I want to make this week, then yeah, I would probably reconsider. Yeah, once again, go G. If you aren't able to afford it, consider, instead of going for Saka, go for another Arsenal midfielder like Odegaard, Martinelli, or Trossard. Thank you, Chat Sport. Hello, mate. We have the same team apart from Sinchenko was doing Watkins for Haaland and Maddison for March. I'm looking to do the same thing, or Chilwell in for Estupinian/Henry, or in my case, Ben Mee. Game week 29, Saka to McAllister, Kane to Solanke. That looks good. I'll be honest with you, mate, though. I wouldn't do Kane to Solanke. I see Kane outscoring Solanke in that game week, despite having a fixture less, and also Kane's a great player to have for the remainder of the season, really, for the last 9 game weeks of the season. Basically, I'm -4 for Maddison this week with those plans, but I think it's worth... Yeah, I think it is as well. I could see a 3-1 Brentford in that game, and if Leicester do score, Maddison will be involved, but yeah, it's going to be a tricky one. Prediction, who's going down? I mean, I'll try to kind of back what I've been saying all season. For me, Bournemouth, they've been good recently, but I think they'll go down. The others would be Leeds. That's the other team I mentioned. And I think Javi Gracia's appointment, hasn't really filled me with confidence and hasn't changed my mind on that. So, yeah, those two. Who's the other team that I keep on mentioning? Yeah, I said Everton will probably be safe because of the Sean Dyche appointment. So, yeah, the third one. It's a tricky one, actually. Nottingham Forest are decent at home, and I think that could keep them up, but their away record is pretty shocking, to say the least. I think they've conceded 31 goals on their travels, and they've only scored 4, which says a lot. So, yeah, the third team I have to think about, but honestly, it could be anyone in the bottom 8. You look at Crystal Palace, no wins in 2023. You know, if they lose to Arsenal and, you know, they don't get going after the international break, they're in big trouble. Hi, Dylan. I just want to say that Pep Relay is honestly so frustrating and silly. Yeah, I agree with Lavinier. Let's just go through it now. Let's go through the UCL Fantasy stuff now. Yeah, so for those of you that play UCL Fantasy that are watching the stream, welcome. Good to see you. I'll put this actually instead. So yeah, as you can see, I've gone for this. I'm going to refresh the page and you'll see Mahrez is on the bench, which is just absolutely annoying. But in the end, I don't regret that decision too much to keep him because I got Salah in for Bellingham. Bellingham only got 1 point, and that's probably what Mahrez will end up getting anyway. So it's not a big miss, but I was seriously considering getting rid of Mahrez, and I'm just surprised about this, really, because he normally is, you know, kind of missed the Champions League for Man City. But it just goes to show that no one is safe. And really, the only kind of player I'm settled on for Man City is Erling Haaland, and that's it. In terms of the captaincy, I'm seeing a lot of questions in terms of change the captaincy. I'm happy with João Mario. I don't think I'm going to change it. I did it last week. It backfired. Yes, I could maybe miss out on a few points from Erling Haaland or a Napoli attacker tomorrow too, but I'm happy to keep on João Mario. 11 points is a decent return. I think at one point he had 12, but they removed the ball recovery, so he lost the point there as a result. But I think what I'm likely to do is just make no substitutions just yet, play the starting 11, see how things pan out, and then tomorrow bring in the Napoli players for my lowest scoring ones after today's games as well. But yeah, fairly standard stuff. Not much to comment on here as well. I have been keeping patrons and channel members updated usually, but yeah, you can see it all here on stream too. So yeah, let's see what else we have. So we've got 68 likes and over 140 people watching. I appreciate that. I know it's obviously a bit of a weird time to stream. I wanted to stream on Sunday, but I just wasn't able to. And we're just doing it now. And there will be a wildcard video for you tomorrow, team selection on Thursday, and also the deadline stream on Friday. So let's try to get this stream to over 100 likes. That'd be greatly appreciated and helps us in the algorithm. And a huge shout out goes to the likes of You Never Walk Alone Anchor. And also, let me try and get up your name. Also to Chris Asso for sending in the super chats earlier today, and also all the channel members and patrons who make this possible. So thank you to everyone. Let's try to get to 100 likes. We're literally only 21 or so away, 31 away, so we can definitely do that. Hi Dylan, just want to say, I just said that. I'm so tired of having to guess or just not go for City players because of the dumb rotation. Well, yeah, hopefully that cost them in the Champions League. Hopefully that's the case. Let me just do something very quickly, by the way, just so I can also show you. Yeah, there you go. That's all good. I think. Yeah, it's not. All right, let's change this on stream. So apologies for that. Just new screen, bit of improvisation, but there you go. I completely agree with you, Lavinier. That's one thing that's severely put me off Man City assets in the past too. Not doing Champions League. Well, we can also cover it now. That's what we're kind of doing here today. Talking about FPL mainly, but you know, if you've got any Champions League questions or comments, then we can do it now. In the future, I am considering doing some extra streams for UCL Fantasy, since it is probably the most popular fantasy format on my channel, and also talking about substitutions and stuff like that. But the main appeal is the deadline, making the transfers, the captaincy, having it all sorted and planned out, and then most people switch off for the rest of the week and just do the stuff themselves. Any suggestions on Salah replacements? Only for Game Week 28. Well, apart from Arsenal midfielders, which is very obvious, it'd be Maddison. Because, yeah, Almiron's decent for Game Week 28, but still not a big fan of him or Newcastle offensively. So, yeah, for me, it's Saka, Odegaard, Martinelli, Trossard, probably in that order, and then it would be Maddison. Could be anyone to go down. Yeah, Leicester are also looking terrible. I think West Ham will stay up, but they're another one that have been awful this season. Yeah, the thing is, though, with these teams, historically, they have kind of been up and down from the Premier League and Championship. But in like the last 7-8 years, they've been quite established. You look at West Ham and Leicester, in recent years, they've kind of been mid-table and also pushing above to a European spot, winning trophies in the case of Leicester. So, yeah, I mean, I hope they stay up as well. They're great, places to visit away. They're tough games as well, always. And look, they still have a chance of staying up. I think they will, but it's not looking too good so far. I had no idea who Cravo was until the Napoli 4-1 match. Since then, I won him at Newcastle. Yeah, I think that was the first time I had a proper good look at him, and he was fantastic in that game. Only reason I think Kane to Solanke is because we will want Trent and Salah for Game Week 32. That's fair. I'll be honest, though, I still would rather keep Kane. I think he's a better premium or more consistent one than Salah. But it's really close between those two in terms of the second best. I think in the last 5-6 game weeks, Salah's been better. Over the course of the season, Harry Kane's just been Mr. Consistent. You do a really good job reading every comment, like the video. Thank you, Showen. It's a bit more manageable now. It's a bit more of a chill stream. I need to say chillax, which was maybe not the right thing to say. But yeah, it's a bit more tricky with UCL fantasy streams. You'll see that if you do tune in for that as well. But I try my best. I appreciate that. Cal Walker and Foden out too. That's what I mean. I mean, the Walker one doesn't surprise me too much, but the fact that Mahrez and Foden don't start, that is the big surprise for me. In Game Week 29, would you play double Game Week players like Bailey, Felix, Jensen over single Game Week Arsenal? Good question. Maybe Felix. I don't think I'd play Jensen or Bailey, though. Especially if the Arsenal play in question involves a midfielder. I think they could outscore all of them. And honestly, I'd probably rather start Saka, Odegaard, Martinelli or Trossard over all three of those players you mentioned. But if it's a defender, then yeah, I'd be a bit more open to it, especially in the case of Felix. Glad I got rid of Mahrez from no one. I plan on never picking a Man City player apart from Haaland. Yeah, I mean, that's completely fair. I might do the same thing, but I think the other one I'm looking to bring in potentially, especially if Inter are knocked out today, is Edison in goal. Thank you, Ahmed. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. My friend has a 25-point lead on me. It's a title race between me and him for FPL till the end. Only difference is I have a free hit while he doesn't. Any tips? Well, there's quite a few game weeks where you could use the free hit. You can be aggressive in game week 29, but I have a feeling, Vedant, that you don't need the free hit either now or in 29. I think you can get by without it. And I think the free hit will be best used for you in 32, 34 or 37. And for me and my own team, I'm looking at Game Week 32, which will probably have 4 major teams blanking in the likes of Brighton, Chelsea, Liverpool and Manchester United. No, Haaland is not benched. He's starting. He pretty much starts every single game. There will be the odd occasion where he's subbed off early, especially if Man City have a commanding lead, but he starts every game pretty much. Captain Haaland or Osimhen? I mean, just Captain Haaland now for UCL Fantasy and then Captain Osimhen tomorrow. So if you are unaware of how UCL Fantasy works, check out my How to Play UCL Fantasy guide. Basically, if we go through that very quickly, let me go through the fixtures. Let me see if I can get you that for you on screen. So we'll get this back up here. So yeah, if we go to the fixtures, the way it works is, in this case, you know, for the round of 16, the first leg and the second leg, we had 4 different days within match day 7 and 8. So the way it works is that on Tuesday, you could captain any player that plays on the Tuesday. In my case, I captained Joao Mario, and that worked out really well for me. I haven't changed it since. But let's say you had a bit of a disappointing result. Maybe you had Chilwell, robbed of a few assists in UCL Fantasy. Then you could change on the Wednesday, go for Kylian Mbappe on the Wednesday. If that didn't work as well, you can then change it to someone playing today, in this case on the Tuesday, 14th of March, and then go for Erling Haaland. And then if that doesn't work out, you've got Napoli players tomorrow. So basically, you don't need to worry about that. Just captain Haaland today. If you want more points still, then you can captain the Nigerian tomorrow. So let me know if you got that as well. Switch Edison in for Kepa or stay with a safe 6 points. Stay with the 6 points. It's not worth it. Also, Man City, despite some decent form recently, they still don't keep too many clean sheets either way. Will Grealish play every game in Premier League? I think he'll play 90%, if not all, but would I go from an FPL? No, I honestly wouldn't. My overall rank is 3K in UCL Fantasy. Gonzalo Ramos was my captain, 26 points, looks good. I don't think it's worth switching, mate. I mean, 26 points is a great return. I've got 11 from João Mario, and I'm happy to keep. I don't think it's worth switching because Erling Haaland would need, what, 3 attack and returns to beat that? I just don't see that happening. So, yeah, let's go back to FPL. But we are still answering UCL Fantasy questions for those of you that are interested because we literally have 40 minutes to lock in our substitutions and captaincy. How many Arsenal players should I have in Game Week 29? You don't need 3. I think 1 or 2 is fine. I'm looking to actually trim down my Arsenal players to 1, but I think 2 is actually fair enough as well. True substitutions will be hard to discuss for a whole stream. Yeah, it will be, but I think we can still cover it, and also the FPL stuff because it's a bit of a slower stream anyway, so it's fine. Maddison over Bruno Fernandes with Casemiro red. I still prefer Bruno Fernandes, but this week I'm obviously bringing in Maddison potentially if I were to make a midfield transfer because Bruno obviously blanks, but I still prefer Bruno. Should I sub on Mahrez? I mean, you might as well have him starting, but yeah, it's kind of a tricky one because I'm not sure what your whole situation is with your bench because you don't want to sub him on, with all likelihood, he's going to get a 1-pointer and then it kind of blocks you from bringing in a player from Napoli tomorrow. That would definitely not be ideal. So if you can, I'm not sure if you have someone playing on the 15th, aka the Wednesday tomorrow, in your starting 11. If that's the case, you can bring him on for one of those players, and then you can always make the reverse tomorrow. The issue is if you kind of make substitutions and you're bringing in a locked player, so someone who's already played for Mahrez, and then it kind of reduces the amount of substitutions you can make overall. So hopefully that makes sense there. Is Stupinian to Chilwell or Rashford to Maddison? I'd rather do a Stupinian to Chilwell. Rashford is someone you definitely want back, and you probably have a lot of value tied up in him as well. But yeah, as you say, you're probably getting Rashford backing anyway, so that's completely fine. You could also do the same with a Stupinian, to be fair, but I'd rather do a Stupinian to Chilwell. I think Chilwell scores more points than Maddison in 28, but I could be wrong. So I used my limitless chip and tried to climb up the ranks with players like Son. It didn't work. 34 points now, and still Mahrez, Haaland, Benzema, Salah, Edison. I mean, you've got plenty of players left, so you should get a decent score by the end, Sebastian. But I actually did a similar thing on my limitless. I went for Heung-min Son. I regretted it, and I even said back then, I think the main reason I got him in actually was because he scored a hat-trick against Leicester, so I maybe bought into the hype a little bit. Oh, Heung-min Son is back, class is permanent. It didn't actually turn out the right way. UCL deadline streams are so chaotic and fun. If you only tune in for FPL streams, you all should check out the UCL ones. Yeah, they are very chaotic. It's the complete opposite of maybe today, for example. We've had a few FPL streams that have been chaotic, but UCL Fantasy is a different breed entirely. Any plans to get Haaland out? In FPL, yes. I'm looking to sell him for Ollie Watkins. I am considering others like Kai Havertz, which sounds crazy to say out loud, Iheanacho and Joao Felix, but I'm actually just prepared to sell Haaland to Watkins, and that's it. Otherwise, I'd actually even consider keeping Haaland for Game Week 29 and also until the end of the season. But I think the current plan and my inclination is to sell him for Ollie Watkins. Not sure if to switch captaincy from Mario to Haaland, Osimhen, or stick. Yeah, no, that's completely understandable. I'd stick. Personally, that's what I'm doing, but I can understand if you want to be chasing the upside and get a few more extra points. But the way I see it is, let's say if Haaland or Osimhen score 3 goals or something like that, I mean, you still don't miss out on too many points as a result. You'd basically need them to go absolutely ballistic and get 3 attack and returns to outscore João Mario. I think maybe 2 as well could be enough, 2 goals, but yeah, I mean, honestly, I'd just stick with João Mario. So far, happy I could not make that last-minute switch from Matoma to Tony. Yeah, so far, so good. Hopefully, in the second game, Matoma scores a goal and gets some bonus points as a result. Maybe a clean sheet too. João Mario got me 22. Yeah, same here, Gary. Thank you, Jack. Yeah, I don't have a preference. I mean, if Leipzig win, it's, good for the neutrals and stuff. But from an Arsenal perspective, you'd probably rather see City go through because it means they have different competitions to focus on, and maybe they lose a bit of sight on the Premier League. I don't think they will, by the way, and I think it'll go right to the end, especially with the fixtures, which do favour City. But Yeah, I think a City win actually does help Arsenal a little bit as well. Yeah, Mahrez can be man of the match still, but the chances definitely reduce significantly as well. Thank you, Verdun. I'll see you very soon too. I just hit my wildcard for Gameweek 28 on FPL. Good stuff. Hopefully it works out for you. So far, my wildcard hasn't been great, but I was getting red arrows even without the wildcard, which will be my only kind of saving grace, I guess. But I hope it does work out for you. And I think with the wildcard squad, you'll see tomorrow in my video, and also a few changes you might make because of, your own kind of touch as well. I think you could do really well. Who do you think will be the best goalkeeper option for the rest of the season? I think there are three, which I always kind of mention. Nick Pope, Kepa, and Raya. Who do I think is the best? I think Kepa. Still Kepa. And with the recent performances by Chelsea, I'm more convinced about that now. Thank you, Nabil. I appreciate that very much. Big up to Algeria as well. I know quite a few from Algeria too, actually. So thank you very much for tuning in, mate. Gameweek 29 wildcard taking Ederson and Pope as goalkeeper. Not Ederson for me, no. I don't think he's worth it. I'd actually rather go for Kepa Arrizabalaga or Raya, and if I had to pick one, it would be Kepa. Yeah, I think I'd go for him. I saw some short of Martinelli playing style similar to Son. Does this offend you, make you feel better? Well, before this season, we all kind of agreed Heung-min Son's one of the best wingers in the Premier League, so I can see the comparisons, but I think they are still a bit different. But high pressing, even from Son's days at Bayer Leverkusen, the runs made from the left-hand side. Yeah, I can see the similarities, but yeah, I think Martinelli is his own player, if I have to say. I wish you could swap captaincy if you have a player on another day in FPL or later fixture. Far more interesting, not everyone would just plumb for the same person. I agree. Now, you can argue it both ways. In FPL, you can say one captain per week is more skill, but it kind of goes both ways. There's also always luck involved in your captaincy decisions, in your transfer plans and all of that. I do like the fact that you can have different captains on different days because it encourages you to be a bit more different, as you say. So I do agree with you, and I actually prefer UCL Fantasy overall. It does help that I do better in UCL Fantasy as well, but yeah, that is my preference. I can feel Maddison Hall around the corner. Yeah, I think Maddison will do well, and I'm happy to potentially buy him in Gameweek 28 as well. I think the main appeal is Gameweek 29 because Brentford is a tough game for Leicester, and I think Brentford will win quite comprehensively at that, probably by 2 goals, maybe even 3. But yeah, I think that's pretty good, and maybe you're onto something there, Dida. Who to replace for Martinelli in Gameweek 29, Maddison or Fernandes? I still prefer Fernandes, but the main reason why I'm looking to get Maddison in myself is because he also covers Gameweek 28 as well. So if you want someone now, it's obviously Maddison. In 29, I think I'd still prefer Fernandes a little bit more. Yeah, Chilwell captain. I mean, it's definitely something worth considering. He's the only defender I'd consider for the captaincy. No Zinchenko, maybe Trippier as well as another one, but I think Chilwell would be the standout defender in Gameweek 28. Bring in James along with Chilwell? No. I think Kepa and Chilwell is the best way to cover Chelsea overall, but especially in the defence, I wouldn't go for Reece James. In Algeria, we say 1, 2, 3, Viva l'Algérie. I probably butchered that, by the way, but yeah, fair enough. I think I'm going to ask the people I know about that and see what they say. What other changes would you make to see an FPL? Great question. I think points for passes, I mean, obviously, UCL Fantasy specifically is ball recoveries. But something I've seen in Sky Fantasy, for example, is tier points for passing, tackling, shooting as well. I like to see that because it just means you don't need an attack and return or a clean sheet to get points. So yeah, from UCL Fantasy, it'd be ball recoveries. Anything else? I do like the different types of points as well, like a point from scoring a goal outside the box, stuff like that. I mean, it's kind of minimal. It's not a big deal. But I think the main things are ball recoveries and also the captaincy. Being able to switch it, it kind of encourages to be a bit different and also to go for different players in general. Thank you, Sebastian. I appreciate it very much. No worries, Sebastian. You don't have to anyway. I appreciate the kind gesture, though. Best Man City defender in FPL? Oh, my God. Probably John Stones. I think, yeah. In UCL Fantasy, I did say to a few like Twisted that I don't want to go for Man City players in the future. I might go for John Stones in UCL Fantasy, which you'll see. He's very good for ball recoveries in that game, and probably translating that and the bonus point system to FPL, I think Stones would be the standout for me. Martin is also a similar dribbler to Son, beats the man with an effective but not so pleasing to the eye way. That's true. It's more because of pace, more than kind of dribbling ability or close control. So that is a fair point. Which two best Arsenal midfielders? That is the big question. Trossard is, absolutely unreal at the moment. Probably one of the best January signings so far. But I think I'd still go for Saka and at the moment Martinelli. You'll see in the wildcard video tomorrow. I like Odegaard a lot, and you could even make a case for him over Saka, especially if that gives you the money to go for Salah, which you might want to do on the wildcard or with free transfers. But yeah, I think the two best for me right now will be Saka and Martinelli. Odegaard's always up there though. Get Bruno in for 29 or a cheaper double gaming midfielder like McAllister. Yeah, that is a good point. I mean, yeah, if that's your only way to get Kane in 30, I probably would go for McAllister. And also, one big advantage of that is that Brighton could have a double in Game Week 30 or 31, of course. It's nothing set in stone, but it is a possibility too. Keep Martinelli or Saka in Game Week 29. It depends on what you could do with the extra budget, because if you can bring in Salah or Bruno, like I said, and you really want them in Game Week 29, then I'd rather go for Martinelli, of course. But it's really close between those two. Martinelli's been in better form recently, and he's been scoring, I think 5-6 goals in his last 4 games. He's been absolutely electric. So I think I'd rather keep Martinelli right now, but over the course of the season, Saka's been more consistent. Salah to Maddison and Nonto to Kane for -4. Yeah, I'd definitely do it, to be honest. Yeah. Fernandes blank in 32. He does, but if you have a free hit, you can easily navigate that. It's not a big issue. I'm looking to either get Fernandes or Salah in 32, well, before 32, should I say, and they both are likely to blank in that game week too. So, yeah, the free hit should really help. Welcome, Aranya. I went against the crowd and got all 3 Brighton midfield options. I mean, that's one way to cover it. However, the downside of this is that I have 3 Newcastle defenders now. So far, so good, but fingers crossed. Hopefully you do well, Aranya. I've got to double up in Newcastle defensively and 2 Brighton midfielders. So, your success will be my success, although not to the same level. And I think it could work out well for you for the next 2 game weeks. But I still like Estupiñán a lot. The only issue now is that a lot of people are kind of fear-mongering this, him missing the first game of Game Week 29. I don't think it'll be the case, but I think Estupiñán has a big return in very soon, whether in 27 or 29. It's spelled L'Algérie. You got it. Oh, thank you, Ayub. I appreciate that. Hi, Dylan. Estupiñán to Mings and March to Maddison to fill the 11. March to Maddison is the best one for me. I'd rather keep Estupiñán, don't go for Mings, and go for Maddison in for March. I think that's the best move long term. Sell Haaland for Watkins or sell Rashford for Maddison. I'd rather sell Haaland for Watkins. Rashford's cheaper, he's easier to bench in this game week, and it also opens up the space for Harry Kane or the likes of Bruno and Salah in Game Week 29. So yeah, I'd rather do that instead. Martinelli always keeps his head down when he runs. He needs to play smarter. That is true. I think his final decision making is a bit poor sometimes, and that's why the likes of Saka really stand out. Because Saka, even when he was 17, 18 years old, one of his biggest traits and strengths is his kind of decision making in the final third. He knows when to give the pass, he knows when to shoot, and he's been improving his finishing recently. So yeah, that's I think the big advantage Saka has over Martinelli as an example. UCL deadline. Well, the deadline to make subs is at 8 p.m. So in 29 minutes time, so be sure to lock in your teams. If you've got any questions, then let me know. I'll try to answer it. But this is kind of an FPL UCL fantasy stream, you could say, to cover Game Week 27, Game Week 28, and also any questions you may have for UCL fantasy. But as you'll probably see in the future, if we do a substitution stream, there won't be a huge appeal for it, or there won't be that many, let's say, that much clamour for it. The main appeal is the deadline streams and making all our moves before. I should have got McAllister, the new Messi. March not certain, but you never know. I was back in March to do well in this double gaming, so I'm still confident, quietly confident. A bit frustrated with the own goal, goal saga, but it happened. I'm pretty sure it wasn't his goal anyway. So yeah, it's all done. But there's still a second game to go, and there's also Game Week 29 for those of you that maybe keep March until then. I'm looking to sell March in Game Week 28 potentially. If not, it will be Estupiñán or Ben Mee making way for Chilwell. Hold Felix or switch to Havertz Game Week 29. I'd hold Felix, and I think that extra transfer could work out really well for you in another area. You could add another doubler in Game Week 29, or you could even bring in someone like Salah or Bruno, who could really do the difference for you in that double game week. Welcome, Sidindra. I'm doing well. What about you? Just woke up at 3:30 a.m. in Malaysia, waiting for the City match to start. Yeah, the things that people do from Malaysia and all these countries around the world is crazy, I've sometimes, stayed up until 4, 5 a.m. to watch Argentina, but yeah, waking up at 3:30, I just couldn't do it. I just stay up until that time and then I go to sleep, basically. Who are you captaining? In Game Week 28, my current preference is with Harry Kane. I'm also considering, if I bring him in, Ben Chilwell, but more importantly, Saka, Odegaard, and also Ollie Watkins. Ivan Toney's also not too far behind. But basically for me, if I had to kind of nail it down, it's Harry Kane or an Arsenal midfielder, and I'm currently favouring Harry Kane. I try to avoid loading up on some teams. It's great if it pays off, but if that team loses without scoring, you'll have such a bad week. Yeah, I mean, that's why I generally prefer balance, but having 2 or 3 from a certain team can sometimes pay off. Or in UCL Fantasy, having 4 or 5 from a certain team can also do the trick too. What do you think about Rodrigo from Leeds? Plays Wolves in 28, doubles against Arsenal and Forest in 29. I mean, Leeds midfielders aren't bad. They're decent options. Rodrigo's the best of a maybe average bunch, you could say. Harrison's maybe another decent choice. He was a really good option a few years ago. Yeah, he's probably more of a differential, someone under the radar, and he's worth considering. But honestly, I'm looking at the other choices. Matoma. You're also looking at players like Saka, Martinelli, Trossard, Odegaard, also Maddison, who I do prefer a little bit more as well. I just rather go in that direction. But in terms of covering 28 and 29, you're right. Apart from Maddison and even Arsenal players, they don't even double in 29. There's not many players who fit the bill and that also have a high ceiling like Rodrigo. So it's a good shout, Oliver. I just prefer Maddison, to be honest. Premier League now awarded it to March. Are you serious? No, I don't think we get the points, Oliver. Is that actually... when was this announced? Don't tell me it was announced just now. Surely no. It's probably announced like a day or two ago. I think the way it works is that the goal confirmation needs to be done an hour after the final whistle. After that, there are going to be no changes or modifications to points. So basically, even if March is awarded the goal now, it doesn't matter. He doesn't get the points. Is the free hit worth in Game Week 28? Depends on your situation. If you're struggling to get 7-8 players out, then yeah, I think it's definitely worth it. And you should gain quite a lot of points by, playing that conservative free hit. But otherwise, I'd probably just look to save it, use it in another game like 32, which could actually be more concerning for you in the future. Have you seen that March has been awarded the goal against Leeds? Do you think we'll get the points for that? No. Like I said, yeah, the way it works, unfortunately, is once an hour's passed after the deadline or after the game, they don't make changes to points. Now you stay up to watch the Mighty Seagulls. Maybe. I didn't need to stay up for that, though, to be fair. I just watch it during the day. But yeah, Brighton are kind of like a second team for a lot of people I know. Spurs fans I know, United fans. And to be fair, I know some Ecuadorians, for example. And because, Brighton have a lot of Ecuadorian players, Brighton's their second team as a result. Not giving them the points, though, after an hour after the game, which is the FPL riot. Exactly that, Joshua. This season has been so weird. I feel like I'm making the right moves, yet it feels like they always backfire, like Martinelli out, for example. It made sense, though, at the time. And Martinelli lost his place against Aston Villa, which we talked about back then. And, no one expected Trossard to have such an impact as he has done, because he is a different player to Jesus. But as you can see now, with no Nketiah and Trossard playing, down the middle, you've got this kind of connection forming between him and Martinelli, and it's got the best out of the Brazilian. So that is kind of a bad luck, I'd say, as well. Is it just me, or does Mitoma share similarities to Kaká? I mean, this is Matoma's first season, really bursting onto the scene. Let's see if he can continue this in the future. I'd love to see him at Arsenal, of course, but he's not going to go there. But yeah, I think you might be onto something there. I still think they're a bit different, but maybe the explosiveness, the style of dribbling is comparable. Ivy Iheanacho, thoughts on selling him to Havertz or Watkins? I mean, if you're in a situation where you have 2 free transfers, I probably would sell him to Watkins, but otherwise I'd just hold. Iheanacho's not a bad option. He's got a double in 29 too. And March to any midfielder who plays this week and doubles in 29, it'd be Maddison. But Oliver made a good suggestion in Rodrigo. Harrison's not bad either, but I'd go for Maddison. The next World Cup in America is going to be the same with the time zones. Yeah, I watched the Copa America in 2016, and I had to stay up until 3 a.m. sometimes for the game to start. And the game would sometimes end around 4:30, 5 a.m. So, yeah, it's not ideal, but it has to be done. Is it time to bring in Steele or avoid? Yeah, I think definitely wait for tomorrow, and then you can have full confirmation. But I think Steele will, be a good option for the bench boost in 29. Having said that, I'd still rather go for the likes of Raya, Kepa Arrizabalaga, and Nick Pope, to be honest. So yeah, he is worth bringing in, but yeah, I mean, I'm not really that fussed about Steele right now. Just announced, says Joshua. Wow, that is actually... Who would have thought? It took them that long. Why couldn't they do this back when it was actually necessary and relevant? Yeah, I don't see him getting the points. I mean, I can refresh the page and check for you, but I very much doubt it. As Joshua said, and as I mentioned earlier, the way it works is the decision had to be done back then, an hour after the game concluded. So, yeah, unfortunately, no retrospective points for Solly March. That is not ideal. I'm checking it just in case. Oh my god, for a second I thought I got the points. I don't know why. No goal has been added. So yeah, that is all done. That is very unlucky for March owners. Hopefully he's saving those points for the second game. I couldn't decide between March, Mitoma and McAllister. That's why I went for all three. Fair enough. I like Estupinian too, but it's been difficult to call clean sheets and other returns from defenders this season. That's completely viable. And so far, you've got it bang on. It could, go the other way in the second game, but still a good decision and something different, which is something interesting as well. Anyone watch the league? Being the only goal playing against my husband and his mates, that series explains very well how fierce it is and why I wake up early for FPL. I actually haven't seen the league. I don't think I have anyway. But yeah, still kind of a growing community, I think, between women playing FPL. I mean, there's a growing community in terms of watching football, but FPL is kind of even smaller in terms of the proportions. But it's good to see more involved. And you never know. You could definitely outscore the likes of me. Not too difficult, I assure you. If it's March's goal, Kane will probably get credit. Oh, no. Yeah, I remember a few years ago when Ericsson scored and Kane tried to take credit for it. He said, I swear on my daughter's life or something. I don't know if that's true, but it sounds a bit funny. I have Rashford and Mitoma who are not playing in Game Week 28. I have 9 others who are playing. Is it worth using a transfer to get one of them out for Odegaard? I think so. To be honest, though, I've said that a lot today, but you'd want to get Rashford or Mitoma back in 29. Probably do the reverse, basically. Get Odegaard now, then sell him in 29. I'd rather sell Mitoma out of those two, though. And you also might have more value tied up in Rashford. Opinions on Castagna, Brentford in 28 and Palace Villa in 29. Yeah, there's some good fixtures, but I don't see 2 clean sheets for sure. 1 maybe, if we're stretching it, but Oliver, I actually don't think Leicester keep a clean sheet from those 3. 1 maximum. And look, it's not a bad shout. Castagna's probably the best Leicester defender, but I just can't bring myself to recommend him or any Leicester asset apart from Maddison or Iheanacho. Welcome, Amir. I'm doing well. What about you? You cannot buy all our players. No, of course not. And I don't think we will. I think the one that Arsenal are most likely to buy is Caicedo. And McAllister will probably go someone like City. Dylan, I heard that March will get the points after the second game. Bonus point system won't chance, but still. Where did you hear that from? I just don't see it. With the rules that I saw from the FPL website, it does make it clear that they can't make points or change the points after 1 hour following the game. So, yeah, I just don't see it happening. Southampton have 3 clean sheets in 4 games. Can we take Kane out for Double Gameweek 29? I mean, you can, but Kane faces Everton in 29, and he has a great record against Everton. I think apart from Leicester and Arsenal, Everton might be his 3rd favourite opponent. I think Southampton are 5th on that list, if I'm not mistaken. So I'd keep Kane if possible, but I can understand if you want to go for a double gimmick play in 29. Me too, but Raya, too many transfers and also do not want 3 Newcastle defenders. That's fair. I think, yeah, still would be decent as a result. And the alternative is Kepa, who I'm guessing you have already. Sell Estupinian to Chilwell. So I'm in a similar position. If you look at my team, I'm going to show you very briefly my team selection for next week as well. Wait, the sat refresh. Maybe that means March got the points. Let's check. Wait, why did it do this, by the way? Yeah, the points haven't been added. So, yeah, as you can see, I've got 2 blankers in my starting 11 in March and Haaland. My original plan was to sell March for James Maddison and Haaland to Watkins and probably keep the captaincy on Harry Kane. But the alternative now is to not get Maddison, probably go for a 2-man midfield in Game Week 28 and go for a 5-man defence and get in Ben Chilwell for Estupinian. So, yeah, I think it is worth selling Estupinian for Ben Chilwell, but I'll be honest with you, I do like Estupinian, despite some poor fixtures coming up too. I don't watch Brighton games. Which midfielder stands out for you? Overall, in terms of performances, I think McAllister, and maybe I'm a bit biased as an Argentine. At the World Cup, he was great. But obviously, in terms of FPL prospects, it's Mitoma. And that's why I've captained him in Game Week 27. And he's also someone I'm looking to keep for Game Week 29 too. Hopefully, we'll get some nice points tomorrow. Yep, Amir, hopefully we do. And also, News Your Fantasy if you do play that too. If FPL YouTube experts had their own FPL group, which expert do you think would give you a tough time and why? Had their own group? I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't know them too well to really comment on that, so I'll reserve judgment. I saw that on Twitter, someone said that. I don't know if it's true. I don't think it is, unfortunately, Sebastian. It would have been great, and it should be the case, but I don't think so. Who's the best midfielder option between 6-8 million for Game Week 28? Maddison. Decent fixture against Brentford, and also a double in 29, a fairly decent one at that. I'm going 5 at the back. I might as well. That is going to be my big conundrum. Chilwell or Maddison? And if I get Chilwell in, is it going to be a Stupinian or Ben-Mee making way? Because I do prefer Stupinian in Game Week 29 and probably from 30 until 38 compared to Ben-Mee, especially with the fixture swinging very soon for Brentford. I actually haven't gone on holiday yet. I'm going to go in a few weeks' time. That's going to be the big conundrum. I'm going to try still get some content out very soon. But yeah, the holidays I've taken recently were last year in the summer and also in the half term too. Yeah, Buffy, I mean, look, like I said, unfortunately, I just don't see the points being added, so I don't want to sell dreams. I don't want to sell Haaland. Is it worth having 10 players this game week and I'm captaining a UCL fantasy, hope we win? Yeah, I mean, 10 players is fine, as long as you have most of the key options covered, but I still think Watkins, for example, outscores Haaland in Game Weeks 28 and 29 overall. If Argentina's playing against England, I support Argentina. Just it's never been a discussion for me. I mean, my entire family are from Argentina, so that's pretty much the reason why. And I've also grown an attachment to them on the international stage for the last decade, pretty much, and over. I have James. Think he'll play. He might, but he's just so much of a risk always with the injuries, the illnesses. There's always something with him. I'd rather go for Ben Chilwell, even though he's another injury-prone player. But I think Chilwell's the safer option. Hopefully I haven't jinxed it there. Need some help with UCL Fantasy. Are you happy with Mario Captain with 11 points? I'm happy with it. I'm sticking with it. We covered it earlier, and I'll probably show it one more time before we wrap up this stream. I'm sticking. Henry to Chilwell for a -4. I like Chilwell, and I think he's a better defender long-term than Henry, but would I take a -4 for that? I don't think so. Surprised Pep didn't start Foden or Mahrez yet. That's my big kind of confusion point as well, because when I saw Mahrez wasn't starting, I was like, okay, Foden is, because he's on form. He's not even starting either, so there you go. On wildcard, Toney or Havertz? Ivan Toney for me. Havertz has 3 home games in the next 2 game weeks, but Ivan Toney for me is a really good option. Even against Leicester, that could be a big haul. You look at 29 as well, and I'd back Toney a little bit more too. Yeah, Watkins and Kane, fairly standard stuff. Will you consider doing a -4 to get Rashford out for Maddison and Haaland out for Watkins for Game Week 28? No, I don't see a need to do that. Not for my team anyway. Would I consider it overall? Yes, I think the hit does pay off, and you can always bring Rashford back in for 29. Try not to go without Rashford in 29. That would be my big advice. I know there's no Casemiro, but he's still a great option in general. How's Havertz as an option? Still the same inconsistent play as ever. What I do like is that in the last 2 games, he's looked very good overall. The underlying numbers support it. He's been scoring goals as well, some crucial ones against Leicester and Borussia Dortmund. He's on penalties too. But do I really rate him compared to Ivan Toney, Watkins, Erling Haaland, Harry Kane? I don't really. And that's why I'd rather go for those 3 or 4. You could even keep Haaland and then have him back in for 29. So, yeah, Havertz is fine, and he's probably worth considering. But I'm still concerned about Chelsea offensively, and I'd rather double up on them defensively and probably stick with that, to be fair. Thank you, Graz. I appreciate that. You mentioned playing a back 5 and midfield 4. Who are you planning on bringing in? Oh, in Game Week 28, I would not play a midfield 4. It's either a midfield 3 or a midfield 2. So basically, my conundrum, so let's just make it clear. Haaland out for Watkins is very likely. I think I'm going to do that very soon. The second transfer I'm looking to make will involve March out to Maddison, and that will be a 4-3-3 formation. That's very standard. Or I'll go for a back 5, keep March, and go for a 5-2-3, and it would be Ben Chilwell coming in for either Stupinian or Ben-Mee. And this week it'd make more sense to keep Ben-Mee and sell Stupinian. So if you caught that, that's probably what I'm looking to do. It's one of those transfers, and I'll talk more about this in the team selection. What are your Champions League predictions tonight? I think I went for 3-2, tonight. 1-0 Porto, 2-0 Man City. And for tomorrow's games, I think I went for 3-2 Real Madrid, and the other game was 2-0 Napoli. Do you really think Maddison's the best midfielder option? Well, this is exactly what I'm saying. The fact that he's got 5 points in the last 4 game weeks shouldn't put you off too much, you know. But that could be an advantage. He's got low ownership, and I think the fact that he hasn't been scoring recently will put people off, and I think that could be an advantage for those that have him or that will buy him in. Yes, of course, Leicester in general are a concern, but once Maddison is fully fit and gets around the games, I really back him to get returns. He's got the fixtures, he's got decent underlying numbers, although not too special. I genuinely think He's not the best midfielder. That's, goes without saying. I think Rashford, Mitoma, Arsenal midfielders are all better. Also Bruno Fernandes and Salah. But other than those lot, who actually doubles in 29 and also features in 28? Not that many. You're looking at Rodrigo, Harrison, and I think the best option is probably Maddison from those, but not overall. I'm a Chelsea fan. I'm telling you, will not concede to Everton at home. Yeah, I think you'll keep a clean sheet. My prediction is 1 or 2-0. Yeah, I agree. And that's why I'm looking to bring in Chilwell. I think he outscores Maddison in 28, but in 29, I would still like to get in Maddison anyway. So it's just a matter of what I do, the order of the transfers as well, and do I take a hit ultimately in the end. One more since I'm going for Tony over Havertz on wildcard. Thoughts on Mings or James? I mean, generally I would rather go for James, but I'm not a big fan of either. I mean, you've already got Chilwell, and yeah, triple up in Chelsea defensively, no. I think 2 is enough. In that case, I'd probably go for Mings, but I just don't like Aston Villa defensively. Chelsea would be the only English team to the final. I disagree. I mean, Pride of England is way too far. Even Pride of London, for me, is not true. I mean, fair enough, you're a Chelsea fan, so it does make sense, but I think reaching the final is possible. In recent years, Chelsea have been the best in Europe. You have to say them and Liverpool, but yeah, I don't think it will happen. Could you do a Dermot Gallagher impression? I don't think so. I can't remember how he speaks. All I know is that he talks a lot of waffle. Let's put it in a nice way. He always basically agrees with the on-field decision by the referee, so he's kind of a useless addition to most of them. Not always, but 90% of the time. Buendia Gameweek 28 pun. I was actually considering him. I ended up going for Bailey, but I think Buendia's the most in-form Aston Villa midfielder, so he's certainly worth consideration. But the way I'd rank it is 2 Arsenal midfielders first, and I'd go for probably Saka and Martinelli. Odegaard and Trossard are also worth considering. Maddison, Almiron, and then after all those options, it would be the likes of Buendia, Jensen, and also Bailey. So yeah, he's probably 5th or 6th in terms of those options. You've also got Rodrigo, who could also surpass him, but he's not bad. He's not bad. What transfer's better, Mitoma to Maddison or Haaland to Watkins? Good question. I'd actually rather do Haaland to Watkins, but I can understand if you want to do Maddison in for Mitoma. How about Iheanacho instead of Watkins? I mean, he's a fine choice. Iheanacho has some good performances in him. He's actually performed pretty well despite the blank in the last game, and he is quite threatening whenever he does start. He's got a great Premier League record under Rodgers and Leicester when he gets the starts, and also at Man City back in the day. But I'd rather go for Watkins. Better form, better fixtures, I'd argue, better team, and Watkins has been really impressive recently. Better underlying numbers too. No worries, Diogo. I mean, we've got 10 minutes left. So yeah. Wait, Oliver, really? You're trolling me, aren't you? You're trolling me. That would be great if Solly March got those points in the end, but that is weird because literally in the rules it does contradict that. But yeah, Diogo, if you've got any UCL fantasy questions, we're also answering them very briefly. Before wrapping up, we're pretty much coming to an end now. We've gone through quite a lot. But yeah, the next... Oh, wait, no, ignore that. I read it wrong. That's a shame. That is a shame, Oliver. But it would have been nice. It would have been nice. But yeah, the rules do state that, so I'm not really holding my breath, let's say. We're 6 likes away from 100. Be sure to keep on smashing the like button. Let me know if you end up being the 100th liker. But all of them are appreciated. They're all as important as each other. And thank you to everyone who's been supporting the channel. We're getting ever closer to 20,000 subscribers. We're going to have more UCL Fantasy and FPL content for you until the end of the season. And I'll try my very best, even when I'm on holiday, wherever it is, to get content out for you. But it's always appreciated, those that always tune in to the streams. Can a player have 2 price rises in a single game week? Yes, they can. Not in a single day, though. Martinelli, Trossard, or a defender for a third Arsenal option? I mean, right now, I'd probably say a third Arsenal midfielder, and Martinelli would be the one. AFTV or the United stand? I mean, I'm an Arsenal fan, so I guess I'd say AFTV, but I mean, yeah, you can always have your criticisms or, your opinions on both of them, but yeah, probably AFTV, I guess. Timo Werner hat-trick incoming. That'd be great. That would be great. I'll try Twisted Parky. I'll try. If there's more questions and comments, I'm more than happy to stay on for a little bit longer. I'm actually going to sort out my predictions and stuff and finalise them. So I think I'm going to go for 1-0 Porto. I actually haven't seen the Inter Milan or Porto lineups, though. That's something I want to check very quickly on stream. So yeah, let's go through that. So Diogo Costa starting. No surprise there. Pepe, Fabio Cardoso, Marcano, Zaidu. Yeah, pretty standard stuff. Taremi starting. And as for Inter Milan, yeah, Dzeko, Lautaro Martinez, Di Marco, Dumfries. So no Darmian. Oh no, Darmian's on the centre back. I got ahead of myself. Serbi, Onana, Bastoni. Yeah, so no surprises in either team really, unless I'm missing someone. Lukaku's been in decent form recently on the bench. Yeah, okay, looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. Hopefully Darmian and Onana can give me a clean sheet, but I am backing Porto to win this game, actually. Looking at the lineups, though, a draw is also feasible. That's a tough game to call, actually. Really tough game. Pretty evenly matched, too. And by the way, thank you. We have reached over 100 likes. I appreciate it. Just realized you're doing reaction stream just before the UCL game. I mean, there's no problems with that whatsoever. Got a few UCL fantasy questions in here as well to spice things up. Chasing in my mini league, tempted to take a crazy 1 week punt on Son. Yeah, he has a great record against Southampton. Scored 4 a few years ago at St. Mary's. Do you think Vinicius, Di Lorenzo, and Kvaratskhelia play tomorrow? Yeah, I think so. You know, if they make too many changes, they run the risk of being knocked out or being comebacked or having a late scare, and it's not worth it. And also, winning breeds confidence and also consistency. So, yeah, just running the risk, drawing or losing this game might have a detrimental effect on the league, although Napoli almost certainly have won that either. Thank you, Tobago. I appreciate that. Big shout out to you and to South Africa. Thank you very much for tuning in. Which team would you want to win? Brighton versus Fulham in the Cup. I don't mind either. Someone different would be great. I don't want United winning it. Also, they'd match Arsenal's 14 FA Cups. I mean, if I had to pick one, maybe Brighton. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Brighton. They've got Danny Welbeck, former Arsenal player. They've got McAllister. Also, Buonanotte, who played in my Argentinian team, Rosario Central. So, yeah, probably Brighton. Welcome, Duke. I'm doing well. What about you? I'm not changing the armband. No. Estupinian to who? Chilwell seems the most obvious move. And what do you think about Billing? Yeah, Billing scored against Arsenal and Liverpool. And early in the season, he was looking like one of the best budget midfielders. So, yeah, from Bournemouth, he'd be my favourite other than maybe Solanke. Yeah, Billing's a decent choice, but really, you've got Rashford, Matoma, Arsenal midfielders. You know, you've got 4 of them now. You've got Salah, Bruno Fernandes, and still a few others like Maddison. So there's not really a space for Billing for me, but he's still decent. And at that price and below, there's not many better, to be honest. Yeah. And Estupinian to who? It would be Chilwell, I think, this week. That's what I'm looking to do potentially. If not, it's Maddison in for Solly March. Should I hold my Arsenal bet from Game Week 2 winning the Premier League or cash out after Game Week 30? I'm not sure what profit you're making, but I mean, Arsenal are 5 points clear. The problem is they face the likes of Liverpool, Man City and Newcastle away, and also face the likes of Chelsea at home. Yeah, Mahrez is on the bench. That's Pep for you. Thank you very much, Pep. I love you so much. Yeah, I'll show you my team very quickly, just for those of you that aren't aware. So yeah, this is my final team for UCL Fantasy. Yeah, so Mahrez is bench, but I'm keeping him in the starting 11. There's no need to really sub him out yet. So whatever he gets, it doesn't matter. I can sub on the Napoli players tomorrow. But it's not looking too great so far. That late goal by Club Brugge also was a bit of a dagger. The likes of Grimaldo and Antonio Silva would have gotten extra points. So it was a bit of a shame to see that clean sheet wiped out. It was a great goal, but also a useless one in the grand scheme of things. But there you go. So yeah, still quite hopeful about UCL Fantasy and FPL. But yeah, that's how things are looking so far. No, yeah, maybe. I mean, like, as long as it's someone new, I don't want, you know, kind of a traditional club winning it, like Man City nowadays, or yeah, or Man United especially. Is my March move a failure? I mean, not necessarily, and you were a bit unlucky. If he was given the goal, which is what everyone's saying, I mean, it really should have been awarded. You should have gotten the points for it. Keep Estupinian. I like Estupinian. I'm not saying I'm going to definitely get rid of him, but it is a consideration for me based on my team. If I free in 28, when is the next best time to wildcard? I mean, Game Week 29 could be. I'm not sure what you have in terms of the bench boost. If you still have that, I'd recommend using in 29 if you can. But I think between Game Weeks 29 and 33 is definitely when you want to hone in on the wildcard. And I'm not sure about your team, so it's difficult for me to answer. But maybe Game Week 30 would be decent. Do you think Watkins triple captain for Game Week 29? I don't think I'd go that far. I like Watkins recently, but I don't have enough confidence to triple captain him. I'd actually rather go for Rashford. So yeah, Rashford in 29, or if United have a double in 34, maybe Rashford again in 34. Why do I have a feeling there's a chance City will be out? Well, there is a chance. Leipzig are a decent team, but I think Man City will win. And also maybe the fact that Man City are a bit unreliable in Europe also plays a part, but I think they'll reach the quarters or semi-finals this time. Thank you again for the good stream, Dylan. I'm going to go now. No worries, Sebastian. I'll do the same thing as well. Thank you very much. This United fan is unfollowing after that comment. I mean, come on, it's understandable. You'd say the same thing about Arsenal. Mutual respect sometimes, but also you don't want to see the other win. We'll never understand how I finished 740 worldwide in World Cup Fantasy, and I'm currently 1.2 million FPL, 44k in UCL Fantasy, which is decent. Yeah, I mean, FPL is really competitive. I mean, World Cup Fantasy, finishing in that position is still a big achievement as well. And same with UCL Fantasy, that's a good rank. But yeah, FPL, I think there's a lot of different factors that play a part. Doubles and blanks. Also, they always like throw a span in the works. You've also got maybe more of a template, let's say. Everyone's kind of doing the same thing. Maybe because FPL is so popular, you've got so many videos and content out there, podcasts. Maybe that also plays a part. But yeah, FPL is getting tougher than ever. I bought Chill since Game Week 24. I mean, you've been talking about him for a long time, so fair play. Even in UCL Fantasy, you captained him. He should have gotten 2 assists, got a 5-pointer in the end, but you've been on to it. And, you know, for me, I've said it all along. You know, I think Kepa was enough a few weeks ago. But now with Chelsea not only keeping clean sheets and not conceding many chances, but also winning games, looking more assured of themselves. You've got Chil scoring goals or getting assists. All of that, I think, has kind of changed my mind on him. So you've been ahead of the curve. So fair play. Thank you, Buffy. Good night to you as well. Just feel like Chil's my unique understanding. Yeah, I'm all ears for your other unique understandings you may provide as a Chelsea fan. And that's why I always encourage people who watch or maybe support a certain team to give recommendations on certain players, because you will have some insights that I won't have, of course. Arsenal have the best away record in the Prem. I'm backing them to beat Newcastle City. Liverpool will be tough. I mean, Arsenal can beat City, especially with their full team, but you looked at the 2 games this season, lost both games. The one at the Emirates, they really shouldn't have lost. I mean, they gifted City the goals, but that just shows the difference maybe in mentality and experience and also composure in those big moments. And Man City have won the last 10 Premier League games against Arsenal, which is just unreal. I mean, Arsenal should never be going through that phase against anybody. It doesn't matter if it's Bayern Munich, Barcelona, whoever. City are so tough to beat. And look, I think Arsenal can win there. I actually think they might drop points to City and Liverpool. But if they can win one of those two, it would be massive, especially against City, because that's essentially a 6-pointer. Kepa, Ward, me, Chilwell, Shaw, Trippier, Bueno, Odegaard, Saka, Rashford, Matoma, March, Haaland, Tony Kane is my team. Yeah, bench boost 29 looks very simple for you. I think there's a few things to improve. I think Bueno's a must sell, of course. But apart from that, the rest looks fairly decent. And you could even do stuff like March out for Maddison this week. You could also, in 29, do Ward out, for, let's say, Raya or even Nick Pope. But yeah, I think the main thing for you is Bueno out, and you could go to, let's say, you could go to here because you've got most of the 29 players I'd recommend. Maybe someone who covers 28 as well. And in that case, that's a tricky one actually. But yeah, Bueno out. I'd also probably do March out to Maddison, but honestly, that looks like a really good bench boost team for 29. I think Arsenal can win. Will they? I mean, I'm not sure. It's so tough to tell. I think it goes down to the wire. I'd back Arsenal because I'm an Arsenal fan, but City are, they won 4 of the last 5 Premier Leagues for a reason. They've got a great record against Arsenal. I back City to win that game at the Etihad, so that could also change the momentum of the title race. But right now, yeah, I think Arsenal have a great chance, but they've got to stay focused, stay composed, and get the job done. Remember last season I held Shaw for the first 7 game weeks, Stay wasn't starting? Yeah, I remember that, and I was one of the first to sell him and, talking about it in my videos, but yeah, fair play. Welcome, Diogo. Farewell, Diogo. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you on Friday as well. Hopefully, Tony, all of these haul tomorrow. Play free hit this week. I'd only free hit if you're struggling to get 7-8 players out. If you've got 8 or 9 already, I think that's fine. You could easily get to 10 potentially. Yeah, Mara's 1 point, but I don't think there's a... Oh yeah, it's a glitch, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, he'll probably come on for 1 point anyway. That's a bit of a glitch there, isn't it? I wasn't even paying attention. Havertz, says Wei Sing. Yeah, look, he's another one I've actually mentioned a bit recently, but I still prefer Tony. I'm being very stubborn here, but Tony, Watkins, and Harry Kane, the best 3 on the wild card for me. After those 3, then it's between Iheanacho and Havertz, I think, and ultimately Haaland in Game Week 30 is obviously a very easy move. Imagine Spurs went on a crazy run and won it, says Twisted Parky. Well, in Champions, I mean, they can't win anything now. They've already... Premier League, it's impossible almost. They're 18 points off the top. they would need an absolute severe capitulation, and from Arsenal and City. That's not happening. Even United, their chances of winning the Premier League are close to nil now. So yes, Arsenal City at the moment. Let's see how it goes. I hope Arsenal can do it. Man City winning it again. I'm trying to take my bias aside, away from it, but it's a bit boring seeing City win it all the time. I'm sure Liverpool fans said the same thing last year when everyone wanted City to win again. If Tony hauls, I need Matoma to get way more. Yeah, same here. I hope Tony gets a goal, but Matoma gets a brace. That's what I'm hoping for. Do you think we shouldn't count Everton as the top 5 worst teams anymore? They're inconsistent, basically, but they're fairly decent at home. They can be tough to beat, but yeah, it's tricky. Bournemouth and Leeds have been quite consistent in my bottom 3, and actually Southampton, that was the other team. They've been fairly decent recently, but I'm going to stick with my original prediction. I think they go down too. Top 5k worldwide in FPL, by the way, Dylan, really good lager. Hopefully you can get even higher, maybe top 1k. Honestly, top 50k is a good achievement in FPL nowadays. Top 5k, even more so. Hopefully, Jorginho, that is going to be the hope. He should have gotten the points and the goal for the first game against Leeds. Hopefully he does in the second game. But I'm actually quite surprised that we got the news literally as we're streaming here for UCL Fantasy and for FPL. But we're going to have more content over the next week or so. So keep an eye out for all the videos and streams coming up. I'll see you on Friday for the deadline stream. And also, the wildcard video is going to be released tomorrow. It's already out for patrons and channel members. Be sure to check that out. And there's also going to be a team selection video on Thursday. So plenty of content headed your way. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Jesus Christ, it's definitely time to end this. It's been going on for what, 2 hours? It doesn't feel like that. It honestly doesn't feel like that. But yeah, thank you to everyone who's been subscribing, liking the video, all the super chats. I appreciate that very much, by the likes of Chris and You Never Walk Alone, all the channel members and patrons. Thank you for all the support. If you've got any more questions or comments, be sure to let me know down in the comment section below. Who's your favorite player of all time? Unfortunately, it's going to be someone very boring. It's Messi. Yeah, he's my favourite player of all time. I also obviously love Thierry Henry, Dennis Bergkamp, from Arsenal. But yeah, I think it's probably Lionel Messi. Less than 5% red arrow for this game. I'm happy to take it. Yeah, I don't think you wildcarded, and if that's the case, that makes sense. I need a green arrow, and if I don't get it, I'll probably lose some confidence in this season. Not including Harry Kane. He's probably one of my most hated players. Let's put it that way. Thank you, Lager, and see you all in the upcoming streams and videos. Take care, enjoy the football. Let's now see the Champions League games and what that has in store for us as well. Take care.